Or not go.
Hello.
Maybe no.
What?
Yes, is it an awkward sibling hour without technical difficulties? I don't know.
I mean, we're live, but I got advertisements.
Funny, I didn't get advertisements on the TV though. That's one of the very few times. Are you okay, Kat? We hope you're okay.
I checked where the audio was coming from.
Oh, did you get it all fixed?
Yeah, apparently I was like, "What? Why is the YouTube tab like playing audio? It's muted, and the video's muted. Where's this audio coming from?" It was Discord. Because I accidentally hit the play button on Discord and not the link when I wanted the link earlier. And I forgot, and it apparently just when you went live, it was like, "We're gonna play."
Laura's here too. Look at this. There's Kat and
Hello.
Laura.
I have food on the way, so I may have to skedaddle to get my chicken and waffles.
Understandable. Well, Kat has laundry as well to pick up once it's dry. So.
They're jalapeno waffles.
So, we're all running errands while we do.
5.5 minutes until my dryer's done.
Nice.
Well, here we are today on a new season of Writer Tools, essentially. I think this is essentially a variation on Writer Roundup, where we talk about the skills writers need that are not necessarily directly writing skills.
Okay, who's still got a tab open? I'm still hearing it.
Are you hearing something?
Yeah.
Okay, Kat.
Because my monitor is right, because the mic is here, but the speaker's here.
Oh, okay. It's having problems realizing to.
Yeah,
Actually, it's better now.
Yeah, it's better.
Sometimes I think I have to actually talk through it occasionally.
Oh, for it to then fix it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you hear it, just be like, "Kat, mute your mic and unmute."
Look, it's awkward sibling hour, so of course it's technical. And of course our prince, Roy. Hello, hello.
Hey, CB.
Megan is also here. It's like I just saw you, sweetheart. And I'm going to mention that we're going to talk about yWriter first. So there is the link, just in case you were curious.
I'm actually in the process of I'm going to download it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have checked this out once before, and I don't have Scrivener on this computer. I only have it on my other laptop, so if anyone else also wants to know about another writing program, I think it's Qual is one I've used.
I'm not familiar.
I'd have to find it to let you know. It's on my other computer, too.
Like the reason why I was going to go over essentially an introductory tutorial in yWriter is because it is free. It is free and it protects writers' privacy. So you don't have to upload it to SpaceJock's stuff to store your writing. I believe it has a way, or they're working on a way to connect it to Google Docs, actually. And there is, from what I understand, I think they've already finished a Mac version, or they are deeply in the process.
They've got a Mac version. They've had to temporarily disable the Android version because of some API issues.
So, because my aim in this particular episode is to show that it is not, what I hear a lot from writers, particularly, let us say, less published, less experienced writers, is it's so expensive to get my stuff out. Like, I have to have all this software and spend all this money, and I don't have much money or any. And I totally get it, because I spend my life in a perpetual state of not enough cash flow. So I wanted to show how there are definitely tools out there that are relatively easy to use, pretty straightforward, and for the fabulous low cost of free to next to nothing. So what I was going to say about the Android version of yWriter that, when it is available, at least it was available for a while, the last time I checked, for $5 for the app. And I wanted to also mention that if you are using Android, then that means that you do have access to Google services, the Google Suite. And that means that, technically speaking, if you were interested, you could also sign up for Google Rewards, where they send you surveys and you get paid in Google Play money. And it's approximately 10 cents per question. And they're going to ask questions like, have you thought about buying a car in the next 3 months? And you just say no. And they're like, thank you so much. Here's 10 cents.
Or if you have your GPS on while you're out, if you stay near any restaurants, you'll usually get about a question a day or every other day that's at 50 cents.
And you can make, so like usually back when I used to drive around, travel more, just like commuting stuff pre-pandemic, I'd usually make between $1.50 and $5 a month just from filling out some questions from Google Rewards. And then you can use that money for in-game purchases. So back then I was playing, what was it? We were playing Clash of Clans or something.
Yeah. Something like that.
And they had a $5 a month for, where you could like essentially get in-game coinage and stuff. So I pretty much just used my Google survey money every month to pay for that in-game. And so I didn't have to actually spend any out of pocket. Because like if there's a Google question in the survey you don't want to answer, you could just say, I don't want to answer. You get paid for the questions you do fill out, and then that's it. So it's I know it's not necessarily for everyone, but it is a way that you can, essentially earn money for apps that you wish to purchase without actually spending real cash. And that's all I wanted to mention about that. Is with yWriter, there is or will be Android version, and though it may cost a few dollars, there's still a way to even get that without paying cash. So I really feel like for writers, it doesn't have to be about money. And because I totally understand, but I've noticed like a bunch of YouTube videos from fellow author tubers who are like, this is how I do everything. And they are using all this software that looks really cool. But it's also, when you look at the price tag, some of it is heart-stoppingly expensive. I am looking at you, Vellum. So look, how familiar am I with Vellum? How familiar, Tom? 15 years? I have been editing in Vellum off and on and cursing its name because inevitably I get hired to help somebody format in Vellum when they're trying to do a photography book. And Vellum is not appropriate for photography books, just as cookbooks and children's picture books are also not appropriate in Vellum. And they've known this for over 15 years. So, hello, Eva. Hello, Spence. We are just getting started with writer tools in this new season of, writer tools. More readers, more stories. Since this is the first episode in the season, I figured we'd actually go over our season lineup real quick. Just to like get you kind of familiar with what we're going to go over. So today, we are going to go over an intro tutorial of yWriter, the desktop version in Windows, because, there is a Mac version, but I use Windows, so guess what? We're going to do it in Windows. If somebody really begs sweet enough, maybe I'll open up my Hackintosh one day and do yWriter in that, if you are very sweet. For April 11th, we're going to talk about keyword optimization and SEO. On April 18th, title games and riffing. And what I mean by that is Tom and I and like our mother started this decades ago when we were little kids, where we figure out how to come up with titles, headlines, and then we play on it. We riff. And so we're going to go over all the various variations on this game that we have come up with over the years that anybody on the planet can play with us. Because we wanted people to like get more creative with their titles, or at least know that you can be more creative. And here are all the tools for how we do it. And if you have suggestions of how you do it, you can share it too, because we'd love to hear it. On April 25th, editing for pacing and flow. That's one of Tom's pitches. Tom.
Well, we talk so much in these movies and stories about how we love the ideas, the conversations are good. Why is this story or book still boring? And it's often about pacing. It's simply the timing between events, which our brains have weird wiring to notice. And so I've known so many stories that people just talk about as and the only difference between that one and the movies and stories people rave about is the pace, how quickly it moves from scene to scene in your perception. Not in actual real time, just in the perception you have of how long it takes. And so I wanted to go over how this shows up at every level. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, you want to make something seem quicker, so you use shorter sentences, you use shorter paragraphs. Your brain says, oh, all of this is moving very quickly. Even if it's actually a lot of words, it looks at it in size relationships for perception. And so I wanted to go over all those little tips and tricks for how to get your book and your story to seem at the pace you want your readers to feel as they go through it.
And in fact, I was planning us going through with samples and literally in live time showing how we collaboratively edit our own sample writing. As well as I was going to pick some classic samples. So if anybody has classic novels that they feel kind of dragging a spot, now's a great time to let us know so we can prepare to have that. And we will edit your favorite classic, like a page of it, in real time. So if there's a classic that you're familiar with, essentially what I'm talking about is out of copyright, okay, y'all? If there is something out of copyright that you've ever read, maybe for high school, where you were like, it drags, oh my God, Gloria, it drags. That would be a great piece.
Like an Austen? Or more so a Bronte?
How about Dickens, Tom? Dickens.
Oh, God.
Tale of Two Cities took forever.
The Scarlet Pimpernel. So, one page, though. And I'd need to know ahead of time so I could figure out a way to copy and paste, get a copy like from archive.org and paste it into like a document so that we can then edit it in real time. We're going to show that to like really walk you through, not just telling you how we do it, but showing you how we collaboratively edit. Because let's be honest, sometimes it's actually more fun to do a collaborative edit than to do an edit by yourself. So May 2nd, Excel tutorials. And when I mean that, I mean the spreadsheet software. This is a viewer request. You know who you are, darling. And, or maybe I misunderstood the request and they were like, this is not what I wanted, but here we are now. And so we're going to go over the basics of spreadsheet creation and specifically spreadsheets that are useful for writers. So like things that were requested is like budgets. So like budgeting book production. And so we are going to go over all of that. And the reason we're going to use Excel is, well, yes, Excel is the devil. It is still a better devil than Google Sheets. Because you can actually do more in Excel than you can do in Google Sheets. Google Sheets is lying bastards. Anyway, but whatever you see me do in Excel, you can do most of that in Google Sheets. So that's why we're going to do it in Excel. May 9th, we're going to go over basic photo editing tutorials. We will be going over to use Snapseed since it's a free app and you can download it for your browser as well. So you can use it on both your phone and your laptop. And yes, probably it's going to devolve into Photoshop since Tom likes Photoshop and I only lightly curse its name. I will show my basics of how I do basic stuff in Photoshop. There are things like essentially that means I have to go over philosophy of photo editing, both from photojournalist perspective and art photography perspective. And then Tom will probably show how he makes this disappear when he edits me in Photoshop because everyone's always interested in that one. It's very easy. He'll show it. Anyway, May 16th, this is the viewer episode where you bring out your fave writer tools and resources. Everything. Get your links together. Get ready to share. Everybody's going to share all their favorite writer tools and resources, no matter the cost. Everything and why it is useful to you, so that everybody else can know what's in the pool. May 23rd, writing enhancements. And again, this is another thing you can, let's see, Megan says you can use Excel Online for free if you use it on their website. Oh, that's good to know. This is another Tom pitch, writer enhancements. Tom, do you want to? So the way Tom pitched it to me was, there are certain things when you, as a reader, are enjoying a story, you want to still be involved in that story. So like recipes, scavenger hunts, word coding, I don't know, things. Tom.
At the bottom of the Artemis Fowl pages in the first book, at least, there is the text that the main character has to translate into English with a cipher. Mm-hmm. And so they have the cipher in one of the front dedication pages. They have the cipher there. It's also on the front cover. But you can decipher every page of the book that the character has to decipher and read it yourself if you want.
Yes, and I actually studied code, teaching children how to write code. All sorts of codes. There are books about this because it's super fun when you're a kid. And why would it stop being fun when you're an adult? So yeah, we will go over all these resources to learn how to write coding if you want to put that in your story. Recipes, how to even find them, even if you're not maybe that much of a cook. The philosophy to then take so that you don't send people terrible recipes. Scavenger hunts, all of it. Because again, yes, kids love scavenger hunts. As a teacher, I used to set up online scavenger hunts all the time for my kids.
Yes, have them scavenger hunt for the locations in your book so they can see little walking videos of the locations you're talking about.
Also, there are wonderful tutorials online for how to construct a choose your own adventure, how to make it as a writer so it works for your reader. And I'm here to tell you, even as an adult, those are still super fun to read stuff. It really does add an extra element to the fun of a story. So writer enhancements or writing enhancements, that's what we're going to go over on May 23rd. And then for our final episode of this season, May 30th, we're going to go over writing games and Ask Me Anything. Now is the time to start submitting your questions. They could be personal questions. They could be general questions. They could be philosophical questions, or they could be fantastical questions. So it is, yes, you could ask us anything personal, but you could also ask us as reference librarians everything. Why, yes, if a dragon were to convert to Judaism, how would it make its food kosher? Yes, I will get you the information from rabbinical scholars about the answer to this question. There is actually an answer. There's actually multiple answers to it.
Yeah.
But so,
if you've just never been sure, you can't, if you have found something you cannot Google, if you're I Google, but it doesn't give me the answers I'm looking for. And so you're not even sure how to phrase the question. Douglas Adams was right about that. Sometimes it's not as much, you have an idea of the answer you're looking for, but it's but what's the question? You have to first figure out how to ask the question right.
What has to change about an Earth-like atmosphere to, instead of blue skies, get green skies? Maybe you've wondered that. Maybe you've never wondered that. So what y'all don't know is that when Tom, what were you, 3? Tom went through a very long why phase of toddlerhood and childhood where he asked me, why is this? Why is this? Why is this way this? Why is this? And me telling I don't know did not satisfy this little boy. So I have been, my life's pursuit is to answer these very reasonable yet difficult to answer questions that someone might come up with. And Tom certainly gave me so much to work on as a child myself, since I'm only 3 years older than him.
Why is every utopia a dystopia?
Yes, there are actual answers to these. There are scholarly answers, there's academic answers, and there's philosophical answers, as well as practical answers from an economics point of view. So even if you just have some wild, fantastical questions, like, what's it like having dragons on other planets? What would that be like? What would it look like? Oh, there are a lot of answers. So you don't have to ask personal questions. I was like, Tom, who cares about us? Nobody has questions for us. And he's like, okay, well, we'll open it up to all reference questions. Like, yes. So ask us anything, including your reference questions. Start preparing your questions now. So we will soon have places for you to submit your questions, but you can you also email them to me my email is in the about on YouTube, actually. So you can just email us, start emailing us all your odd reference questions. We will go find the answers.
What is the most common, least traceable poison?
There are answers to that.
There's 3 answers to that.
Yes. I was like,
we'll decide how much we want to tell you.
Yeah,
but
so
there are, as far as doctors are concerned, there's 3 answers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And they're not what most people think.
Yes. So now is a wonderful time to start preparing your questions, start submitting your questions of any nature. But yes, we will also accept personal questions. We don't necessarily answer the personal questions. It depends, but you're welcome to ask. And we will do that as the culmination of this season on May 30th. So anyhow, there we go. We've gone over the whole season. We hope you have marked your calendar for the things you're looking forward to. And now, without further ado, yWriter, word, and book cover design. Not in that order. So, should I start with yWriter tutorial, or did we want to start with book cover design?
Now let's talk about yWriter, because it's like, how do you organize? First, we'll talk about organize, then the...
Okay.
Because...
Yeah, let's talk yWriter, because I'm confused.
Okay. That is reasonable.
Just in general.
Yeah.
Like, looking at this, I'm like, what?
Okay. Let me get it loaded. Okay. So, just for the record, I have had to adjust some settings on my window so it shows up this large. On regular computers, it may look, the spacing of things may look a little different because I've tried to make the fonts much larger so it'll show up on this live stream. If you still are having problems seeing it on the live stream, let me know, because I can make my fonts even bigger. Okay. Only because it's his birthday. Why do you prefer Robert Downey Jr. or who do you prefer, Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans? Robert Downey Jr.
Now.
I
like who RDJ has grown into in the last 15 years.
I really liked his art because I grew up with him, like from Weird Science, the movie, Weird Science, and other things. I really like his journey, and that he has tried his very best to be self-aware. I mean, Chris Evans appears to be on a very similar journey of trying to really explore who he is for himself, but he's just, he's not in the same place yet. Okay. So, yWriter. I am showing you, this is a nano project from 2 nanos ago. And it is filled in to some degree, varying degrees. But we're going to go over the new project wizard together. Are you sure you want to make a new project? Yes, I do. All right, y'all. Step 1.
We can't see it.
Oh, it's not showing you? Great. All right, let's see if I try it one more time.
I'm going to wonder if you have to share your entire screen.
I'm thinking I might have to. Yeah, because it's
just because it's technically doing a pop-out window.
Mm-hmm.
Which is annoying. Just don't share the audio.
As Megan points out, it won't show pop-ups.
Oh, great. Okay.
I believe when I was streaming and I shared the entire window, it did show pop-ups.
You mean the entire screen?
Yes. Yeah, like that. The tunnel to Wonderland.
Is this okay? Is the audio all right?
Yeah.
You didn't hear the audio. You're good.
Okay. The way the screen was when I was trying to share my whole window, it wouldn't let me see the very bottom where I tell it whether to share audio or not. So, highly paranoid. It's because I'm essentially using Windows settings for those with disabilities in order to make my, fonts larger and everything. So that's why it's like everything's missized. All right, can you see the pop-up now?
No. I just see Chrome.
It says more readers, more stories.
Even though I'm looking at yWriter, you're not seeing it.
No.
No.
It's almost like you just shared the Chrome window.
These are waffle pieces that are battered in cinnamon and sugar and deep fried, and you dip it in Nutella and maple syrup. They are so good.
I'm jealous. I might end up making grilled cheese because I made some chicken soup last night.
Ooh.
So I might make a grilled cheese and eat it with it.
How about now?
Now you got it.
Yay!
Okay, I'll eventually learn. Okay. See, I can learn. Okay, so I'm going to go back over. I click on Project. Go down to New Project Wizard. I am using version 6 of yWriter. So below that is create an empty project or do a new project wizard. I'm going to go with new project wizard. So here we go. Yes, we want to do it. Okay. This wizard will help you set up a yWriter project, fill in the required, you know how a wizard works. Okay. Step 1. We need a project title, everybody. What title? Somebody say something.
Awkward siblings.
Okay.
Sorry, it's just the easiest answer.
I was going to say Secret Talisman Township of Secretness.
Author's name?
None ya business. That's beautiful.
Gorgeous.
All right, now we are specifying which folder. If you click the little box here, you get your little pop-up. And you can decide to put it elsewhere. So, for instance, I have an author folder, and that is where I tend to put everything I write. And I even have a folder for this project you see behind it called Love Buffet, Fat Chant, whatever. Or I can make a new folder. New writings, and then click OK. Now it's going to be there. So here it is telling me this is the finished product. I need to make one more decision, project format, RTF or markup text, which is, in the writer. So we're going to go with RTF.
Which is just rich text format.
When you click finish, you will see a blank project window. There you can add one or more chapter files and start creating scenes. You might also like to set the auto backup method in the tools menu. I highly agree. Thank you for the excellent advice. Hint, start by adding one or more chapters, then add one or more scenes. So where did it say that backup was?
Tools.
Thank you. La la la, here's our backup. Automatically, yes, it is checked. You can also view auto backups. You can configure, you can back up to email. You can configure recipient email. You can back up to FTP and configure your FTP. And you can restore backup. You can back up your entire project, configure alternate backup folders, set scene editor auto backup options. So, and again, we have like a little sort of wizard situation. Save backups to the same file, save backups to sequential files every however many minutes. I personally do like the 5-minute rule. I hate the 10-minute. No, too much happens sometimes in 10 minutes. And then create a text file mirror when saving RTF scenes. There's also a help section to better explain what you're doing. And you can also list all these, where to look up. Where do you want, what dictionary do you want it to be using? And thesaurus. There are ways to change it. So, here we are.
And as CB points out, RTF means it will be easier to share because RTF documents can be opened up by any word processing thing from WordPad and Notepad.
Yes.
To, anything you can type in, pretty much.
Now, I do want to point out, for some people, such as for my Fat Chance story, I had the characters figured out before I had the plot outlined. So you may actually want to set up your characters first. And that is something you can do. You just literally, do you see how I have a cursor? Blah, 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 blah. So we need a new character. What's a name we can have for our character? Anybody? Pick a name. There's
Jake.
no right or wrongs.
Jake.
Jake. Is Jake major or minor?
Major.
Do we want to fill out full names, alternates, description, or tags? How about?
Full name is Jack Skellington.
Yes. Okay. Oh, really, Roy? Okay.
He's trying to lick my waffles.
Give me some of that deliciousness.
No.
We've got alternates. For alternate names, we have a description section. There's for a longer bio where you can actually put the backstory. There's a section for notes. He only wears green on Tuesdays. Now let's put that in. Bowls. He wants all the pumpkins in the world. And a place to select pictures. I do not happen to have a picture of Jack Skellington on my computer. I know, you're all shocked. Seems so silly. Let's see. I've got all sorts of pictures. Food. Here's a picture of food.
What he wishes he could eat.
If I want to view or edit my listing for Jack, you see I have it here. And then if you notice, if I mouse over, it'll tell me this is character button, items, locations, because yes, you can list locations, but to put it in here, you need to add new. So we need a new location. What shall we call it?
Holiday Forest.
Does it have an alternate name? That place we make out? I don't know.
Where Jack plays fetch with
Zero.
Zero.
CP Vaderville.
And again, there's a place to upload a picture.
You know, because even if you do write your whole story during Nano, or just whatever 1 month time period, as you're editing, it is easy to kind of forget what you were originally inspired by.
So I want
your
you to
original
notice
plans for that character.
Under locations, so we've got Holiday Forest in here. I can add new. I can edit a selected one. I can delete the selected. I can also print this list. And I can find. You know, if you have lots of selection. It's the same for items. So we need an item.
Santa hat.
Santa hat. Does it have an alternate name?
Red cap.
Pinky Funk.
Do we need a tag?
Stolen.
Good one. I'm like, how did we even end up over here at midget wrestling? But okay. And it automatically then offers like to, you know, like you're putting in multiple. So I just hit cancel because I don't need to put in a second one. I'm going to click OK. I want you to again see. I can now toggle between. And you can keep adding endlessly. You also have the option for reports where you can print character lists, print scenes per character, print characters per tag. Ditto for locations and items.
And this also really comes in handy when you start writing a series.
Yes. Oh, God.
Of like, where did they originally pick this up? Why did they pick it up? What were they, what was the first scene we see it? And where is it currently?
So let's add some chapters. So we can create one chapter or we can create multiple chapters. How many chapters you'd like to create? So it's automatically saying 10. Sure, let's do 10. Okay. Here we are.
Why does it start with chapter
2?
It did start with 2. And it goes from 2 to 11. Because it automatically assumes, wouldn't you just do 1? I don't know. You can change that.
Or you could change chapter 11 to chapter 1. Make it easier.
Mm-hmm. You can give it a proper name. What are we going to call chapter 1, like, other than chapter 1?
Fallen.
Falling?
Yeah.
This chapter begins a new section. Look, I can adjust this now. I can then move it around. Oop.
No.
No.
If you realize like this chapter actually needs to go before or after a different chapter.
Why does it keep doing that?
I don't know. The scene summaries are going to come from the scenes you put in. So, there. Let's see. I want to save and exit. That's it.
Megan says for one, chapter titled The Dark Knight.
I was thinking the night my parents ate onions.
But the reason why it started at chapter 2 is because it already had a chapter 1, and it just, when you're doing multiple, it's just how many more additional do you want to add?
The W is word count. For now, you see I have 4 different words. So now it says 4. But still, this chapter has only one scene. We add another scene.
You know, Jack returns home. Or rather, Jake returns home.
Jake must be Jack Skellington's son, named after him, and goes by a misnomer.
I can change my status and so on. You can now, once you have something set up, you can then work on your work schedule where you list your project, where you are in it. Is it draft only? Is it an outline? You can work on your synopsis here where it's summary, short scene descriptions, brief synopsis, full synopsis. 1-day writing worksheet where you can actually see how much you've written and ask you how many words do you want to write today, and it will help you keep track of your goals.
Oh, CB has the best shade I have seen for a movie of late.
Oh dear.
Saw the Batman, it was okay. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was much better.
So, ouch. Yes. So here under project, at project settings, you can change title, you can change description, you can change author and author bio. You can put your deadlines in of the date and time when you want to ideally be finished with your outline, your draft, your first edition, your second edit, your finished project. Rating names. I think these fields will each have a setting of 1 to 10. You can use tension, allowing you to rate all the scenes in your novel for the amount of tension they contain. It's only subjective, but if you've written a thriller and you rate 3 out of 4 of the scenes with a low tension, then you probably have work to do.
CB has a quick question about, are the settings on the Windows Android version different than the Mac? No. They
just may be located slightly differently.
But this is all written, coded by one person, and offered for free. He's a writer, a guy by the name of Simon Haynes. Just to help out fellow writers. So no, he does his best to keep them all identical as can be. And since he's the only one coding it, there's no one with different ideas working on it.
So there is a section I really like. It's under search, and there is find problem words. There are predefined ones, such as then, turned, glanced, muttered, suddenly looked, and of course, user defined. Mine would be said. Find them all. It's just me. You can use this also user defined. You can, under problem words, you can find words when you're trying to change a character's name even. There's a lot of different ways to use a bunch of these different resources that are available in this app. So there's a whole proofing section. So like say you need to export a chapter for proofing for others to proof for you. That is an option. I have found that just exploring this app, because Tom originally showed me yWriter, like, oh my God, how long ago, Tom? I think I was technically still married back then.
Yeah, I was going to say, well over a decade now.
There is a storyboard tool.
If you have multiple plots going at the same time and you need to keep track of what's going on.
You can view it larger. So I wanted to just share this with others because it is pretty cool. And again, as I point out, I love the price of free. Especially when, like, Tom showed this originally to me as a way to help organize my thoughts about Universe 2.0. Because there were just way too many characters to keep track of. It's a lot of angels and demons, y'all.
And several plot lines going on.
A lot. Oh my God, they've got so many plots. Everybody's up to something.
You know, if you've ever seen, what was it? It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Universe 2.0 is similar in that we have 5 different groups with somewhat different goals going through the story at the same time. And so how do you keep track of all of them? How do you know who's up to what, where they're located, you know, without it becoming conflicted of why did it only take an hour to get this distance for these characters, but it took 2 days for these characters type problems of where plot holes that will distract your readers to the point that they now have a problem with the story.
And because we do have a fair amount of international viewers, I do also want to point out there is a under localize. You can choose which language. These are the languages available so far. As people have volunteered to help Space Jock with writing, you know, converting everything to various languages, as you see, there is quite a lovely list of various languages, but it is an ever-growing list because more and more people, as they find it, more and more writers help him with making this available in like every language under the sun.
Because it's free, you know, he wants everyone else to be able to write stories just as easily as he does. And some of that is you need help sometimes organizing. I mean, even if you're a pantser, you can still put this in afterwards to help you plot and figure out when you're reviewing and editing your story to make sure, you know, everything works out smoothly. Like, you know, this isn't you have to have this all set up in advance.
Right. This really is very pantser friendly, but also very plotter friendly.
Like, you can put the characters in after you write the scene where the character shows up as a way to note what kind of character you want this person to be. And then, you know, you note in every scene where that character shows up. So again, you can always locate what is this character storyline going? Are they showing up where they needed? Can they be in these 2 different places? Or is this going on at the same time and I need to choose? Or do I need to move one scene in time-wise different? It's, you know, even if you're a pantser, it's still of good use. Because, yeah, you don't have to put in any of this stuff in advance. You can put it in as you write it and then just sort of make notes afterwards.
I did want to point out under help, there is you can register. It's not required, obviously. I haven't. There's a quick start guide. There is a manual available in HTML and another manual in German HTML. There is a wiki. There's a discussion group. There's also Simon's contact, you know, like Twitter and yWriter's Facebook and webpage, and Simon's own writings, articles about writing. And of course, as all writers, we all have books to recommend about writing. So that is all there. So it's not that you're simply like, do you not already intuitively know how to run this? No, there's a whole very useful help section. I have scanned through the manual and also gone to the wiki, because sometimes I just like wikis, and really just explored it and found it to be very practical. I also wanted to show you, so you can have multiple projects. So we're going to go back. Yes, I want to go to a different project. Let's see. That is not the project. I have too many projects. I know you're all shocked. I can feel the shock. You do not.
Multiple projects? What?
No.
All right. With a lot of projects?
What am I like? Oh,
I think you've run out of ideas.
I know. You're totally teasing me. But Where? Let's see. Okay. It's under. Yes. Is it there? Did I put? No, that's pictures of Bo. No. You're gonna have to remember what I did 2 years ago. This is awkward.
But like one of the things I like to use it for, as I realize that I'm not quite a pantser and I'm not quite a plotter, is I like to use this to set project, and then under chapters, essentially for the description of each scene, put my writing prompt. What is it I want to end? I want this scene to accomplish. Because often when I'm ready to write, that is when my ADHD hits and I cannot remember what I wanted to do for that scene. And so if I've just got writing prompts for every scene, I can just see what is it I feel in the mood to write.
You found it.
Yes, I found it. I eventually had to what? All right. What would past Glory want to do? So this is what I have set up for that nano project. And yes, you can adjust all these little sections. Now, I'm not saying that I recommend everybody do it the way I did it. In fact, I'd be shocked if people are like, oh, yeah, that's the perfect way. But this is just how I did it. I took each major plot point and I made it a chapter. So right now, for the most part, there's only one scene per chapter. Later, I planned to put in those interstitial scenes, that sort of connect scene to scene.
Mm-hmm.
Under, the second scene in chapter 1 will actually be the interstitial that will connect to the next plot point or something like that. But this is, since I only did like a week of this project in Nano, this is all that's there. But so for my descriptions for each chapter was how I had described it in plotting the outline. So there's Cole and Bo's meet cute at the park. There's Jem and Cole's meet cute at the park, because I guess that's where Cole goes to, pick up people. I don't know.
They do not have parcel tongue yet, but I'm sure if someone really wants to help, Space Jockey more than happy to have someone translate it into it.
I bet that would be kind of funny. So the next plot point is Cole denies she's attracted to Jem. But Jem's into Cole, so that's there. Bo invites Cole to a super secret food truck. It's tacos.
Ooh.
I'm just double clicking. Cole assumes Bo is gay and puts him into the friend category. Cole agrees to go out on a date with Jem. Jem and Cole's first kiss. Bo and Cole go out to a play in a park sponsored by a taco truck. Yes, that's right. These are my plot points. Cole confesses that Bo is just like her ideal prince from childhood. If only that was it. That's what's supposed to be here. If only he was into women and not gay. Cole takes Bo as her photography assistant to a glamour photo shoot of shelter pets. Bo and Cole's first kiss. Jem confesses her love to Cole. Cole thinks she's about to lose her job. She shuts down, withdraws, and ghosts Bo and Jem. Jem urges Cole to exercise more with a hiking date. Jem gets Cole hired to write a spec script for a Netflix show Jem is attached to. Bo's meeting with N.K. James at the comic book publisher's office. N.K. James is an alternative name
N.K.
for
Jemisin.
Cole. No, for Cole.
Oh.
Yes. See, so you see here under these characters, we see AKA. She goes by Kiki and N.K. James because her full name is Nicole Kindness James. So that is how versus, and her brother goes by Holly, but his full name is Hollis Trustworthy James. Because if your parents are going to give you a weird name, shouldn't all your siblings get weird names? I feel it's appropriate. So anyhow, it shows me how many words I've written in each chapter, how many scenes.
Oh, someone recognized the inspiration for this. Stevie says it reminds me of the old Microsoft Works program that I had on my second computer. Yeah, it definitely has some inspiration from Works.
I do want to point out, so you see I've got chapter 5 where Bo invites Cole to super secret food truck. It's tacos. Here we see the content of what I have actually written. There, if I had a description be there, the characters in it are here, and I can, and probably should need to move that over. Location, items, goals, people, goal, conflict, outcome, and so on. All of that is here to help keep track of who's where and what are they up to.
And also sometimes you kind of forget these little tricks to story writing of like, what's the goal, what's the conflict, and the outcome of like, why is this scene not going anywhere? Well, let me just go look through things real quick and see if anything inspires me. It's like, oh wait, I forgot to think of what's the conflict here that they're trying to overcome for this goal. Let me change that around. Type of, we all get in the middle of stuff. And again, having a little bit of external software that again can remember all those different thoughts for you helps, so you don't have to keep it all in your head.
Yeah, it really does.
Because if you have any amount of executive dysfunction or ADHD or such, keeping multiple things floating around in your head at the same time exhausts really quick. So if you can just have it all that you trust is somewhere else written down, you don't use up your brain power on that part. You can use it up on what you want, which is your creativity.
So you can print the scene list that I put as an outline versus so each chapter and scene I can mark as still an outline. I can then mark it as in drafting.
The drop down is behind us. Can you make the window a little shorter? Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
There we go.
There,
Please
now
move
it's
it
really
around.
big. Now you've all disappeared again. Okay, how about this? Let me.
Oh, CB did bring up like she also does writing prompts, but problem is sometimes she doesn't fill them out fully, and you'll use sentence fragments, and then when she goes back to it, she forgets what the segment fragment means. And like, I have been known, I do the same thing, and so I've been known to just combine that sentence fragment with the next fragment of those being close enough to something, and I'll just work on that. And sometimes the idea will come back to you after you're working on it of, oh yeah, this is additionally what I wanted to work on.
There is under tools, you can also look at your daily progress log if that is something that you are keeping track of. You can, and from there you can actually copy to clipboard. You could reset your today's count and so on. Because I know that like some folks like to keep track of that sort of thing, as well as you can go more detail into your project word count targets for your title, and put all this in, and fill it in as you wish to, if that is something again you're trying to keep track of. You can help them if you do come across a bug. They have creating a debug file, and sending them bugs if you come across anything. Ditto for, by the way, I do like that there are a couple fonts I can change to, just because I don't always like how things look. Sometimes I would like it to look a little different. You can also set the font size. If you need it larger. Or you can set it smaller if, that matters to you and you wish it to be much smaller. So
it's just for reading comfort, depending
Yeah.
on the screen size.
and just your own eyes. So I've had several people tell me that smaller words are actually more comfortable for them to read, rather than larger fonts are actually more difficult because they feel like they have to move their header and it's distracting for them. So I totally get it. I just wanted to make that clear that like there are all sorts of options available within this free software. And there is where you can look at your ratings. Remember we've talked about this: tension, humor, quality, and so on. If I had ever rated any scenes, which I obviously have not. It keeps track of your words, if that's something you want to keep track of, and so on. Your global variables, the things you're trying to keep track of. So I just wanted to show you that. Did anybody have questions about it of any kind?
Hey, Kat, do you have a better sense now of how to use the chapters and scenes and set that up for your story?
Yeah. I think I do. It's just, I was like, where do you write the chapter? What was where I was initially.
Oh, okay, yeah. It just also, you can just write it in that bottom right window.
Yeah, this is content.
Yeah. But unless you write directly, you don't have to open up a pop-up window either. And if you have any ideas to improve it that would make your writing journey easier, Simon's always listening for any ideas he can change and improve on this that people want. Because he's actually got a bunch of other writer software, including how to budget your book, how to self-publish, or how to work with a publisher, of like everything he's learned in writing he wants to share. So it's like he's always open for new stuff. That's like, if only it would do this though.
Mm-hmm. Now I made another chapter and it automatically starts at the end of the last chapter you've created, but I've called it chapter 1A. So I'm going to literally just click on it and drag it up to where I want it. Maybe I want it above 1, or maybe I want it below 1. It's right there. So if you feel the need to move your chapters around, like you're using this as part of your plotting, you can just physically drag them and drop them. So I just wanted to also make that clear, just in case. So,
there's no way to format your writing to have like tab indents or anything in your actual draft?
Like that.
Oh, okay.
Do that, or because I think is just how do I say this? It is very old school, so it is just like a typewriter where you just literally do space. You can, from inside of a scene, you can insert or add scene. You can also split scene. And you tell it where you want to split scene. Like you want to use a hashtag or 3 asterisks or however you want to do that. There's edits. There's also spelling and settings. Clickable hyperlinks or not. Allow tab in editor window. There we go. So there's tab now.
Yay!
Yes, I am old enough that like I was like, I'm fine. Because I am used to back when you had to double space.
All right, it is time for a break.
Okay.
In fact, it's way past time for a break.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I do want to say close the poll. 50% are plantsers.
That's me.
Yep.
Which, I mean, is understandable. Like, you need a little bit of outlining, but you don't want to do so much that you feel too constricted. 25%, though, are plotting. And only 16% are true pantsers anymore. I mean, true pantsers. And then 8% are just writing prompts they'll finish someday. I feel that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm definitely ready for a quick break. I need to go visit facilities.
All right. Well, Laura made a new 10-minute timer.
I did.
And CB says, like, it's part of why she used spreadsheets for creating writing prompts. So yeah, I did the same thing.
So we are going to take a 10-minute break. Now is a lovely time to make sure you got something to drink or check that bladder or all the things. And when we come back, we will go over book cover design. Because while I can show you how to make a perfunctory one, the folks below make amazeball ones.
Mine are just weird and hilarious sometimes.
That's the whole point of a book cover.
Yeah, but if you just want to
grab attention.
So I think what we're going to do is I'll probably go first so I can show you literally my one-trick pony. Where we make the cookbook cover in 90 seconds. That my mother and I used for when we hand published 500 copies of our cookbook in the mid-90s. And then I will open the floor to these amazingly talented folks on their philosophy and everything for book cover design. So be sure to come back for that, because you're definitely going to feel better when you see how I design a book cover, and then you're going to be so impressed when you see how these folks design book covers. So we'll see y'all in just a few minutes. Maybe. Maybe. Wonderful words. Maybe.
I got my stuff pulled up. Woo!
Woohoo! I did too.
I grabbed food instead.
You're doing amazing. You get extra points.
I'm like, I grabbed food instead of opening documents.
I'm working on my breakfast. I'm more than halfway through my bagel and my sausage and my coffee. I put it under the pillow so it stays warm. Tom will join us eventually. Okay. Okay.
Yay, Canva!
I did want to mention this though. And again, I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to endorse Ingram. I just happen to like their trim sizes, like how they have it displayed, as well as Ingram is. You're in an echo.
Yeah, Kat needs to mute again.
Talk. Well, if she talks, it'll fix it.
Hello.
Yes, I feel like her tech is mocking the fact that she's very much an introvert.
Oh, I thought it was just it wants her to speak like Roy.
Oh.
Like it now makes me wonder more about Roy's communication.
What?
Hello, I'm here. Do you remember my poor tummy?
These treats are huge. They just arrived today.
Whoa.
Wow.
Let me see. Hold up.
Oh, they're chews, not treats. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I was about to say that is enormous.
It's bison.
Like that'll keep him occupied for 10 minutes.
Hey, sweet baby.
And off he goes.
Very nice. So it has occurred to me. So the way I think of it is this: when you first start writing a book, you just kind of go with an idea and you intuitively then follow it. You know, like what they call plot bunnies. And eventually you're like, oh, I should probably plot this or outline it. Maybe not, depending on the kind of person you are. And then you edit, and when you edit, you're not entirely clear how it's going to be exactly when you're done, you know, because you're still sort of intuitively feeling your way to some degree. But once you have your manuscript pretty much done, you then have to really change brain hemispheres to get it to the point of publication. If you're trying to do more formal publication, like a physical book or even an ebook. And the way I think of it is this: probably the easiest way to help new writers or new-ish writers conceptualize it is you start at the finished product and you work your way back until you get to the point that you are now needing a manuscript to go any further. And it's like, ta-da, I happen to have already had a manuscript ready now. So you essentially start at one end until you have a finished manuscript. And then you start at the other end of a finished book concept. You keep working your way back till you need a manuscript. And you're like, yay, they've met. And what I mean by that is this. Hold on. Book sizes. So a lot of newish writers don't realize that a lot goes into what is a book. Kind of paper, whether you're doing black and white or color or premium color, the grade of paper, the weight of paper, you have book color cover options, book textures, and that what they're really talking about is like the matte cover, gloss cover, digital cover cloth, like certain looks, book binding. There are all these things that go into it, including what we call trim size. This is important for book cover design. Is understanding that book covers, or really whole books, come in so many sizes. And this is not all of them, by the way, because this doesn't cover the coffee table size books either. This list of popular offerings only goes from 4 inches by 6 inches to 8.5 by 11. There are so many more sizes. And honestly, what I found was Ingram Spark was pretty standard pricing if you just want to play around with it. You don't have to necessarily go with them. And I'm not trying to endorse them or anything. They definitely have not sponsored me. But I just wanted to first mention that because I figured I would explain. Hold on, I'm trying not to make a mess by spilling my coffee. With the book that Mom and I published, which I found this is not one of the final manuscripts. This is actually more like a second draft. We were trying to figure out, Mom knew from the start she wanted a price point of $5. She felt like a cookbook of $5 is a price you can't turn down. It's an irresistible price point of, I have a physical book for $5. And since she wanted to make it so that no one had an excuse not to buy the book when she offered it to people. That was her theory.
I mean, yes, this is a long time ago.
This was the mid-90s. I was 15. So she knew she wanted it to be $5 as the finished price point, which means our profit is part of that $5. So we figured out that means the physical cost of the book has to be somewhere between $2 and $3 in actual cost of materials and no more. In order for it to be worth all our time and energy and effort, we needed to make at least $2.50, maybe $3 worth of profit. So we worked backwards from there, and we figured out that. Let me remove this guy. We figured out that a half page size would be the least amount of energy required, both in materials and in our effort. Because let's say we went with something like 2/3 the size of an 8.5 by 11. We've now got to make at least 2 cuts per page. That adds up in time in us physically doing that, as well as in potential mistakes and therefore ruined pages. But when it's only 1 cut, and it's that so we can also print appropriately, that is what we came to. So, but you still need to know exactly what that is. And that is where Canva actually comes in handy, because one of the other things I've realized just from talking to folks is a lot of folks don't actually understand that a book cover is not purely a book cover. So I wanted to point out in Canva, you can just literally search under templates, find book cover, and then go to blank. I know it's not going to show. I have to undo this and then redo it. I know. All right. But this is what I want you to see. Is it showing up? Please. Ugh. I wish there was a way to make it darker.
The dotted lines are showing up.
Okay, good. That is what I want you to see, these trim sizes. This dotted line and this dotted line. These are really important to know, these margins, when you are designing your book cover. Because you may right now only want an ebook that you're making. But what if you decide later that people, due to reader requests, some people would like a physical book? Because, even Amazon can print on demand. Ingram can print on demand. So it's better to just go ahead and pay attention to these trim sizes now and not have to redo your cover. So, but what if, this standard book cover size is 1410 pixels by 2250 pixels. This does not help me. I need to have it exactly what I want. There is a way to then make your custom size 5.5 inches by 8.5. And then I will stop sharing and then share the new one, because I wish I knew more about how to make things pop up appropriately. There we go. I wanted to just make sure it's doing it. But now I've got the size I need it to be with those margins and the print bleed. There's the print bleed. You can select it or unselect it, and there's your margins. So I just wanted y'all to be, like, for newish people, to be aware of this and that it actually matters. Because when you're newish, you don't know what matters or not. So I wanted to bring that up. And now I shall show you in a matter of seconds what we ended up making, so that we can get on to the really cool book designers, Kat and Laura. I know my market. Okay. What Mom originally wanted, and I do actually have it here ready. What Mom originally wanted was, she wanted this to be a grocery bag with food on top. But what we also figured out pretty early on is color ink costs so much money. Oh my God. And it would cost us almost, this is mid-90s prices, almost $1 just in ink to print in color. Like, to print a full color image versus just the red ink that we ended up with. So this is what we went with. And I'm going to show you so quick. So we went with a grocery bag. And how did we avoid the cost of full ink of a grocery bag? We literally collected plain unused grocery bags from grocery stores, and then we cut them ourselves down to 5.5 by 8.5 inches.
Because the point of the cover is
And
still
then
to catch attention.
and we hand fed the covers through the color printer, and it just printed red ink. It printed red and black. And so this is what we did. This is in order to keep the costs down. But what we did to make it seem nicer, because I was still like, people don't like a freaking grocery bag book cover. That's trashy. So then the adjustment we made was, have you ever seen those clear plastic report covers?
Yeah, transparency covers.
Yeah, the transparency covers. We ordered a big box of those, cut them all in half, and that was the cover over our cover, so it was shiny. And so, quote, it was a feature. It added, like, to protect the book, since, you know, everybody knows cookbooks get greasy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, this is what we did. Let's see. I've actually got the one I worked out. Let's see. It's Horizon. Yay. I'm literally looking at this one to size it the way Mom wanted it. There we go.
Oh, by the way, CB says that she has really missed Roy's adorable little face while she was gone.
He is so cute. I gave him a bath last night, so he's so soft and fluffy now.
When we did initial testings of the printing, the red was too bright and it actually was harder to read. So we made the red darker, like I just did now. Let's see. It's Times New Roman. Back then in the mid-90s, Times New Roman was truly an industry standard. And also, a lot of people nowadays don't realize that printers did not always send all the fonts to the printer. So you can only use fonts that your printer you were sending it to also had that loaded. And the color printer had fonts loaded. And there it is. That's pretty much what the cookbook cover looked like. That's it. It worked. It's not pretty, but it worked. Getting that across. And in fact, about...
Okay, I can tell you how many cookbooks I've actually scrolled through Amazon and seen that look like this.
Yes, like afterwards it kind of became popular, but yeah, at the time, nobody had this. And because it was like 1994, 1995. And about half to 2/3 of everyone we sold it to automatically assumed it was supposed to be a grocery bag. So, because we had actually debated buying pinking shears and cutting the top so it would be pinked like how grocery bags at the time were cut. But we had to look at how much time and energy everything takes.
Mm-hmm.
And we just felt like it was like it also would mean that the top of the page would get dog-eared faster and possibly rip, and we wanted them to have a quality product. But Mom was very insistent that it had to look like a grocery bag, so it meant that all of these pages that we had to cut out of grocery bags, we then had to lightly crumple. And then smooth it flat and re-dry it, because I'd have to spray it with water to make it slightly damp and then crumple it and then flatten it back out so it would have like this sort of textured look. So anyway, so that is it. That is my portion of showing you book covers. I could show you a lot of other crappy covers I've done, but that is it. Does anybody need to see my Regency romance?
Sure, I've seen it.
You've seen it. I know. It's like, do you really? Why? Why, Kat?
Because it looks like all of the other books that are on like the Barnes & Nobles or whatever classics books that you can buy off Amazon or Barnes & Nobles, like, and get printed and sent to you.
Well, again, I was looking for something really cheap to make. Okay, so here we are, the last of the summer kisses. Don't hate me, okay? I just needed a title. I was playing around. So what I did was I looked for, since I knew this was a romance I was working on that's Regency era, I looked for images of paintings that are in Creative Commons that the subject is wearing approximately the right era of clothing. And that is what I used as the background. It has a fade in it. And yeah, I called it Favored Aunt Publishing. Last of Summer Kisses. Summer can't last forever, but Elizabeth wishes it would. Yeah, and that's literally it. There's a fade of transparency over it. As you see, like, I just, there's the picture. It's a portrait, and technically this outfit is not actually historically accurate for the Regency time period, but it's close enough that unless you really examine it, you can't tell.
By the way, I did just post Just one. I mean, you can always just go search on your own, but there are good colors to use for your text to contrast with backgrounds, and there's a lot of bad colors. And I like the one I posted because it shows both good examples and bad examples.
I did adjust the coloring
because the difference is,
and I tried to specifically go with what was being used at the time in the 1790s. So I went more Rococo.
Because if you ever wonder, like, well, what is a bad color contrast example? You'll see on them, and what you'll notice is that the text does not have sharp edges anymore. The actual text does have sharp edges, but your vision will blur it with the color background. And that's why some colors combinations work and others don't. And it's because you can see those sharp edges. Like this pink contrasts very nicely with that pale, with the pale white background. It does not bleed into it. All those edges are sharp. But if it's not a good combination, then the text will kind of look fuzzy.
Yes.
And you don't want your readers to have any difficulty looking at anything on your image, because if there's any problems, your readers are lazy. They will go, well, if I'm having problems with the cover, obviously I won't like it.
There are ways, if you feel like it already looks blurry, you can like click on effects and adjust style and play around with it, which is actually what I ended up doing on, your favorite. I was working on it, Love Buffet, Fat Chance. You remember that from yWriter so long ago? It was like solid 20.
The power of a drop shadow.
Yes. Wrong one. There we go. So this, the background picture is a picture I took, I don't know, 12 years ago, 15. I really have lost count. This is a model in my studio, and this. It was so low light that it had a motion blur, because there was low light. I was trying to get mood lighting, but I kind of like how it obscures a little bit. It kind of reminded me of when you're outside under sodium lights. So that is why I decided to go with this neon. And I went with a splice, and you can actually adjust how much of this shadow and the color that you actually want to do, so it would pop rather than blend too much. Because it is so important, above all things, the title has to pop so that it catches the reader or potential reader's eye. And then the second thing that needs to pop is your name, so they will remember it when they try to look for it later. It is so important. And again, yes, here are my crappy covers, but maybe this will help inspire you of, look, the standards are so low, y'all. You can jump in. Okay. Now I really am done. Ladies, take it away. Who wants to go first?
I don't care. Are you ready, Kat? Or
no?
Okay, I have my stuff up. So, okay. So this is KDP. You can pick your trim size and like how big do you want your book? Come on. So there are all these different ones, and then it will let you download a template as well to see. I gotta switch which tab I'm sharing now. Dang it. Okay.
Welcome to my world, honey.
Chrome tab.
Also, this is one of those few times where going to a bookstore can really help. Just go hold a book in your hands and see what it is that feels comfortable and the size your audience tends to like.
Yeah. So I'm sharing the new tab.
It is at this moment that my tabs are not responding to me.
I edit it.
Okay, thank you.
So you can select in KDP, is it a paperback, left to right? How many, do you want it in inches? What size do you want? How many pages? And then you can calculate the dimensions that you need for your cover. So that's how I got my cover dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And then share another tab. Okay, so this is my book cover so far.
It's so pretty.
So I went on Fiverr and I hired an illustrator, and they did this front cover over here with these Lovecraftian tentacle monsters in space.
I'm just like, that background needs to be a
Poster.
No, I was thinking a floor design for a skating rink.
Oh,
That'd be cool.
Oh, that would work.
yeah, that would be so cool.
So yeah,
Or an aquarium.
You're right. The cephalopod and jellyfish aquarium section.
Yes. So cool.
So yeah, I got this one illustration.
Mm-hmm.
I mirrored it over here, and I wanted my text to be more readable. So I clicked this button and I made it half as transparent. Mm-hmm. So the black of the background is coming through to darken it.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie is a genius. And apparently all the fonts with tan were the fonts used by the actual publishers that did horror publications back in the day.
I did not know that.
So they have all of these tan fonts that I went through. So it feels more like a horror novel because it's using the actual fonts. But a lot of these won't let you do bold. So I cheated.
Look at you with your trickies, you little tricksy writer.
So this one, the effect is a lift to darken the background around it to make it more readable. And on top is hollow. And hollow makes it bold.
Genius.
That is a really good trick. You're right.
That is genius.
So that's what I've been doing a lot.
Because I've been wondering where you got the for the cover.
Me too, because it looks so freaking good. Like
I was gonna say for the
actual
title.
that cover font.
Ignore the message you're about to receive on Discord.
Okay, but yeah, I have been admiring how clear and easy to read your back cover blurb is, and was like, how does she quite get it? It looks like an effect, but it doesn't look like an effect. Yeah, it doesn't. It looks like an effect because I know how hard it is to get that, but it doesn't look like an effect, and that's where I was like, how does she do it?
Also, I wanted something on the spine.
Yes.
So I took my cover and then I did this little thingamading called edit image, remove background to make it more black behind it. And I just tilted it until I got the tentacle exactly where I wanted it behind my name. And I did these thingies to bring it in to where I wanted it so that it is on the spine.
Very nice.
Yeah. It really
and don't forget to leave room for your barcode. So, yeah, let me share my other.
I was gonna say the other part I like about that book cover design is that it definitely it has the limitations of printers in mind. So it's not that close to the edges.
Yes.
Because text gets shifted sometimes for no good reason. There's plenty of space at the top and bottom if you needed to add publisher specific info, like Ban and Tor would do,
or Bantam,
and also just don't overcrowd it because you want your readers to have an easy time to see it. But yeah, like it definitely acknowledges the limitations that, again, new writers don't necessarily realize about publishing as much as, you're used to, as people are used to modern printers that are very precise. Publishing equipment is a bit older and not as precise and tends to make little mistakes. And then publishers, since you're a small person, will try to bully you, and it's like, so just put it in there of, like, there's plenty of space on all sides of the text for things to shift slightly, a quarter or half an inch, and it'll still be fine.
Yeah, because you can see her trim margins. Both the white and the red or magenta.
Yeah. So I brought this into the KDP, uploaded my interior and my cover, launched the previewer, and just try and make sure that that sucks. It won't let me. Oh, there we go. So, like, that's ridiculous. Okay, so if I keep holding it down. So I wanted to make sure that all the text was within the red and the white lines.
Yeah, well within.
Yeah, your margins, your printing margins.
Yeah.
And your bleed.
And I wanted to make sure that my blurb had enough room for the barcode to show up down there. Yeah.
Very nice.
So that's how I did it. I got an illustration. I wrote my stuff, came up with a concept for an illustration, sent that off to an actual illustrator who does book covers. Got my dimensions from KDP, put those dimensions in Canva, and did the mirroring and the fade effect on it to make the words more legible. Use tan fonts from the horror publishing houses. I use the lift to darken the background around the words, and then duplicate that, put it on top of each other, and use the hollow to make it look bold. And
you did not go over 3 different font styles.
Yes, exactly. I use one for my title, one for my name, and the rest is all the same.
Because I know you were tempted for more.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
It does give it a professional look, though, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
With just those 3 fonts.
Not that it's a crime against humanity to do 4 or 5. Look, I've seen it. I've even seen on professional book covers. It's not the end of the world. It's just more like an industry standard of 3 or less fonts. That's all.
And you are trying to appeal to a classic audience.
Yeah.
So again, you're trying to go for a more classic style.
I also have a bunch of horror anthology collections on my bookshelf, so I just pulled them out and figured out which one do I like. Do I like them smaller and thicker, or bigger and skinnier? What do I like?
Again, that's where just being able to hold a couple physical books really does come in handy. Far more, like, you think, oh, I can imagine this. It's not quite the same. Once you actually see it, you have different visceral reactions.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons we went with a half page, is when we knew specifically from the start, we talked about what did we want in a cookbook? What do we like in cookbooks? And when I'm cooking from a cookbook, since I was the main person who cooked in our family for dinner, I prefer cookbooks that lay flat, which determined what kind of binding we did, which is that we went with a spiral bind. And so that means I want it to lay flat, which meant a full page is like all the counter space I could spare. And that most people can spare on their counters if they're like looking at it. But ideally, to have the option to then fold it back to that one recipe is also very nice. And prop it up, like, because that's what I've also done in the past. So that definitely informed the size, and the binding that we did eventually go with was based on, well, what do we, as people who really like cookbooks, what do we like, what works? Also, the small size meant it's easier to put in your purse if you want to take it with you to the grocery store.
And so this is also where it does pay off to know what your reader base is. And be able and ask them to, like, especially if you can, show you a few of like their favorite books they like to read. Or even if they're mostly ebook readers now, ask them again for the recommendations of what are the ebooks they like, because while yes, a lot of ones now, especially through KDP and such, will let you reflow the text and adjust the text font size, it's still good. A lot of people, that is more effort than they plan to go through. So it's good to know what's the default people like to see, who like your style of book.
I would agree.
So yeah, if you can find people who really like your style, then ask them the book examples of like, because there is a certain size book that is perfect for reading in bed, and that is not the same size that is actually good for reading in a chair.
Yeah.
One that can give you a concussion.
Yes, it's so true.
I don't want to say how many times I have been tired at night and this phone has just gone whoa.
Yes. But like, books come in all different, like, these are all like, do I want to have it shorter and chunkier or bigger and thinner?
But
this
you can already
one
see like
made
some
sense.
text effects.
These ones made sense because these were 100-word stories, one per page. So it made sense to have it this size. This is by one author, just their short stories, so it makes sense to not have to have bigger pages. So just a handy little one you can stick in your satchel.
And hold on to those, because those will come up after we finish the book covers, when we're talking about how do you format your book.
Yeah.
Because there's a few examples in there I want to show of how you place your text is important.
And do you want little doodad images to break things up? Because you can pull those from Canva as well.
You can.
I recognize a lot of the Canva ones in these.
And also, many of them are out of copyright anyway, because they're from 150 years ago. These little designs. Also, you can honestly make your own. Says this is a perfect size book for reading in bed. Don't mind me just floating over from some research into a not very YouTube friendly genre, and over in that genre, the phrase is one-handed read.
I was actually just talking yesterday with Glory about Zara's latest podcast episode, as they were talking about one-handed reads. And when, the genre goes from starting with an E to starting with a P.
Yeah. So, Kat, did you good night, CB.
These things open now. I have not made yet a book cover that has like for a paperback yet. So all of mine are considered for ebook or for Velas. So
and again, recognizing what's the kind of ratio that most modern phones are going to have.
Yeah.
So these ones are the ones for the Shadow series, so my process for making these is because all of the images are from Canva itself. I actually just filled in a bunch of images, and you can see some of the ones that I said I didn't want, though I might use them for covers for short stories later.
I do like that effect on those first two and one later of the bordering.
Oh, this one. And then I didn't have the margins on or the print bleed, which I know I should have on, considering I took a class in document production and design. And
you can teach only so much.
Know all of these things, and do I ignore them? Yes. But so these are the shadow ones, and so I actually took images and then used some of the effects on the images. How I did my text though is, so there's actually two different text layers here. I actually just copied the text because I liked the regular format and then one of the effects on it. So if I ungroup these, or unlock them, and ungroup them, I actually have, they're the same font, obviously. One is just regular, but then this one is the hollow one. So that I could get like the filled in effect and have, just because it seemed to, it seemed to work with what I was like, this works across all of these books.
Mm-hmm.
And
that is a good thing to plan ahead about.
It gives them kind of a ghostly quality while still being readable.
Yeah. And then my font for the series and the Kalia writing novel or novella, are everything on this is actually the same font. I am using one font the whole time on this cover. Sometimes I do use multiples, but not often. But I made sure that they were just solid white for all of them. And then I tried to make them smaller than the title. But I was like, it just really works to have the shadow down at the bottom like that and just be big like that. I don't know why. It just, something about it looked really good to me.
But also that way people can instantly recognize it. Like, that is part of the point of book covers, is a bit of iconography. You want them to be recognizable at a distance. You want people to be reminded of stuff when they see it.
That's a really cool image.
And yeah, having that same style and font means that when they see different ones, they'll be like, oh, it's part of the series. I've seen one of these before. It's got to be part of it.
Yeah, another thing that I stuck into it is, if you notice, if I go into the actual image, the sword is not there. That is a element of sword that is actually in every single one of these covers, even if you can't actually originally tell where it's at. Like this one, can you find the sword?
I'm saying, is it on her hand?
Or necklace? No,
it's right here. It's on her wrist. And on this one, it lines her hat, her hood. And this one is on the skull. And then this one, I realized later, I'm like, this kind of looks like a cross in the distance, but you can also tell it's a sword.
Nice.
And I designed these covers before I had titles, but somehow the titles still went with the covers.
Nice.
But then there's the ones that I did for fun, and they're ridiculous. But because these ones are part of one series, I tried to make, like, they all have the border with the pomegranate. And I made sure that was always the same. And then, like, similar elements throughout them. So, and so when I did my Vela covers, I have to do this to my Blood Rain covers. I have to do it to this one still. The final version of it, actually, I took into Photoshop later to make it look like there was blood splatter. Which comes up from the bottom of the screen. Just because, like, Blood Rain, you feel like there should be blood on this cover, don't you?
Like, it makes sense, yeah.
So yeah, like, I used Photoshop to go in and, like, give her red eyes and give blood on her mouth, and
nice.
Just to add the little bit of what I couldn't do in Canva. But yeah, I haven't done yet the front and back. That's one of the things I need to work on in the next couple of months, obviously. For Whispers of Tomorrow.
And I mean, when in doubt, as you know, Laura has pointed out, you can always just mirror and fade the front cover.
Yep.
To give it a united look.
It's true.
Can I share what I've started doing in Canva?
Sure.
Okay. This is what I have started doing. Oh, come on. This one. So these are stories that I'm posting to Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Stories that are in my Chinese Shivers anthology collection thingy, majabobber, the thing. But Canva is so fun. I have I got the picture of the tree roots. I added the title, a micro horror, and this is just a square that I have made transparent just to make it more readable. And this, you can do the lift again. And it's so nice to have the Instagram post sizing already done for you as a template.
Mm-hmm.
So you can totally just post your stories on Instagram as well. And I don't know. I think it's really fun.
I think it looks really great.
Do you want to show them yours, Glory?
No. Why do you take over for Mom now that she's dead, Tom? Why?
Because you're such a sweet person, and I love seeing that sour face.
Team.
Again, yeah, it's perfect to have that, the Instagram sizing already set.
Mm-hmm.
So you can quickly work and edit.
Yeah, I went with Instagram size for the post because they are so particular.
And it's so easy to add more pages to the post.
Yes, it is. And I knew I was going to need at least 2 to get this story in. It turned out 3. And you can see where I have extra. Just because I always like to have extra just in case. But then there is the duplicate page option, which makes my life easier. And I found this frame among elements, and then it allowed me to edit the color. So I went with the colors I had already as a palette picked out for the posting the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Finding a very readable font. So ones with a small amount of weighting. So how do I explain this? Okay. It has serifs, which also help because it gives it gravity. And if you look with the serifs, it's slightly darker at the bottom more than at the top, where it thins out a little, and that also makes it more readable for people. So I knew I was looking for a font that had a little bit of weight. Like, do you see where it's a little bit weightier at these spots? That actually makes it more visually easier to read, not just for dyslexics, but also everybody. So I knew I was looking for it, a font that was relatively easy on the eyes, but with some weight in it. And so that informed which font I went with. Wrong way. And then obviously putting because I went ahead and assumed that at some point the pictures would be downloaded and then reshared, and whether somebody intended to copyright infringe or not, they were going to share. So I just assumed they were going to share without crediting. So I just automatically put it into the pictures of how, if somebody reads it and they like it, where they can find it, or where they can find the rest of the pages if all they find is one page, where they could find me to then hopefully find the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, and that is also why I numbered each page. So this story is story 1, but this is also page 1 versus story 1, page 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then essentially where to find the rest of it, because I knew that I would always be posting to both of these, since Instagram and Twitter seem to have relatively different demographics. So that's why I was planning from the start to post to both. So, and that's it.
Nice.
I just wanted to keep it visually simple, you know. Not like Laura's really cool backgrounds. Also,
And then
finding those backgrounds would be so exhausting for me.
And then also you even did check with a few people you knew who had reading difficulties.
I did. I checked it with those who are visually impaired, also those who read a lot of stories online. Because y'all all know, because I've sent it to all y'all, and I've sent it to a bunch of people in chat too, of like looking for people who either read online or have visual impairments to see on your devices, can you read this? How does this look? Because I knew, especially for the first page of each one, it needs to be visually engaging so that people want to actually dive in and read it.
So I took your idea of numbering the pages. So for this one, I had room to add my signature, my author signature, and put the 2 out of 2, fade the background so that the text is more readable. But yeah.
Yeah,
the pages seems smart.
I was able to read them on Instagram when I saw them.
Hooray!
I know, because like so many times people post stuff and I'm like, what is it saying? What is it? Because between my dyslexia and my visual impairment, it's like, oh God. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
I may have gotten carried away.
No,
I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 micro horror Instagram posts. I'm just like, I can't post them all at once.
You have no idea how many I will be posting.
Have a Facebook page. You can connect your Facebook page and your Instagram account, and you can schedule your posts.
I did, but you can't schedule multiple pages for a post.
Yeah.
Oh.
It sucks.
It's a bummer.
I even tried later. Same issue.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it turns out Instagram and Twitter, it may have built into their algorithm where they not exactly, but almost shadow ban you if you post from a scheduling system, even their own in-house scheduling, versus if you create the post in the app and just go ahead and post right then rather than scheduling it. And I've noticed that, especially like on Twitter, when I've scheduled a post ahead and then it goes out, it never gets retweets or even likes from people who normally always click like on my stuff, because they're not seeing it, because Twitter is obscuring it. And I've since found out the same is going on Instagram as well for scheduled posts. So it may just be, as much as it is a pain in the patoot, to not depend on scheduled posts to actually be getting the eyeballs you want them to get. Particularly new eyeballs, which is what I am trying to do by breadcrumbing these stories.
Well, that's rude because...
Oh, I agree.
Especially since some people literally are just like, I only have this time, this one day of the month, and they schedule their entire month of social media posts.
1000% agree. It sucks. It's terrible. It just appears to be that's what is happening. Because especially Instagram, I haven't really done much scheduled posts on there. But yeah, from those who may be unofficially working inside Instagram, I guess apparently, especially a couple months ago, they may have adjusted the algorithm where you don't get really organically boosted if it was a scheduled post, versus if you're just posting on the fly, you're far more likely for Instagram to give you extra impressions for posting on the fly rather than scheduled posts. I said, I'm not trying to make anyone feel discouraged about this. It's just something I recently came across in my research. And it is, at the very least, has been confirmed as this definitely has been true for Instagram for the last several months. I don't know how much further back algorithm wise, it's not boosting, organically boosting scheduled posts. But I know, like, from what I read from people who are unofficially talking about working from inside Instagram, I think it's been at least 4.5 months of this for sure has been going on. That Instagram, if anything, is de-emphasizing scheduled posts versus spontaneous posts.
Because as much as Instagram's like, oh, if you've been on in 30 minutes, we'll let you know and say maybe you should get off. They want people to get on as often as possible. And so also, if you are not interacting with other people in the Instagram account that you are posting to, again, it's not going to boost you very much. It won't show even to a lot of people who are following you, because it's essentially showing it as just a business account, in which case they want to be paid for that advertising.
Right. And I'll tell you, a lot of the people I follow on Instagram, okay. Hope everyone understands that out of love. Pretty much, if I'm on Instagram and I see your post, I'm going to click like on it. Like, no matter what you're posting about, I'm going to just click like. I'm going to click like because I feel like everybody needs somebody cheerleading them on the sidelines. If I'm not clicking like on your stuff, it's because I'm not seeing it. And I'm scrolling till it tells me you've seen everything in your feed. So look, honestly, it's one of these of you may want to look at your posts of late and see which ones, you've seen where I clicked like on it. Because if I haven't clicked like on it, I didn't see it, because I often do not think to literally go to each person's Instagram page and make sure I saw all their stuff. But like for a while, I wasn't seeing any of Laura's stuff. So it was kind of a surprise to me to find out she'd been posting all sorts of things. This was like a month or two ago when I noticed this. So I actually had to go look her up and like click like on a couple things, hoping Instagram would start showing it to me again. Kat, I can't tell you last time I've seen your stuff on Instagram.
I don't post on Instagram.
Okay. Just checking. But like Bookend Lane, I think I've only seen 2 things in the last month, 2 months. I click like on whatever I see, y'all. Like all of y'all, I click like anytime your stuff comes up. So if I'm not clicking like on your stuff, it's because Instagram's not showing me. That's a question. Why? Like you could be quoting someone, you could just be like, write a thought, whatever, and I will click like on everything to help boost it. So if I'm not clicking on it, it means they're not showing it to me at all.
My groceries will be here in 24 minutes.
I'm definitely clicking on it.
Groceries, yay!
All right, Glory. I think it is time for a little break, though.
Okay, so let's see. Come on, little computer, you can do it.
Right. Eva says, this year I went from December to March without posts.
All right, I got a Bluebell timer loaded up. Someone gonna make me another 10-minute timer. We're gonna do that one. Because I got a new one. Come on, little computer, you can do this. Don't know why it's suddenly getting slow on me. Genuinely concerned. All right. Well, now seems like a wonderful time to again check and see. Do you have something to drink? How about a snack? Is it snack time? We'll see y'all back here in approximately 10 minutes. Meepity beep. Meepity beep. Bloom, 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 bloom.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Alrighty.
I ate a chicken leg.
Tom and I were literally talking. I suddenly go, "Oh, 3 seconds." So it'll be a second too, as a cat. Very nice. I finished my breakfast.
Yay!
I finished my bagel and sausage, and I finished my coffee.
I need to leave in 15 minutes, so just a heads up.
Understandable. Because what we're going to talk about next is the real writer's F word, formatting. I guess that's why I put it at the end, was I am like, no, don't make me.
I'm paying someone to do my formatting. Like, I don't want to mess up at the very end.
Well, but we also are doing it in this order in part because this is the order you need the information. First, you need a manuscript.
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to know what size is your book, because you need to know what your margins are. You need to know what size you're working with.
As well as you don't have to, like, look. I could be wrong about this, but from my perspective, I feel like for the most part, creative people are really good at putting up their own roadblocks, real and imagined. And not to ruin anybody's good time of all the reasons they can't do something. But here's another one where when I hear people go, oh, but like I can't afford to hire somebody to format and I can't afford vellum, so I can't format my stuff, so I can't publish it. It's like, okay, no. I'm going to use Microsoft Word for this, in part because what I'm actually showing is how we formatted the cookbook. Not to say that you can't format a regular book the same way to some degree. It's very similar. It's just that formatting for a cookbook is a bit more advanced. And so again, it's like one of those of if I show you how formatting for a cookbook, it's like under that umbrella, regular stories also will fall. And that's all. That's what I'm trying to get at. So, and that no, you don't need Word for it. The reason why I'm specifically using Word instead of, say, Google Docs is this, I think it's like a second draft I found of the old manuscript because we sold every copy. Mom even sold my personal copy of the cookbook one time for $9, not $5. They had to pay a surcharge because it was one of the very last copies that we had because we had rent to pay. And I mean, yeah, I still need somewhere to live. So, but I found this among Mom's things a couple years ago. And of course, this is all I have to show like, hey, I didn't make this stuff up. But the way we formatted it originally was in a software that I don't think really exists anymore, right? It was called like Lotus Smart Suite 123. It was made by IBM. Microsoft and IBM at the time were in direct competition. So by the mid to late 90s, Microsoft stole all of Lotus 123's functionality and put it into Microsoft Word. So even though Lotus 123 no longer exists as a functioning software, we can still pretty much show you what we were doing in Lotus 123 in Microsoft Word. That is specifically why I'm doing it. Also because most public libraries have Microsoft Word on them. Most school computers, unless they are specifically Macs, like interestingly, at our university that Tom and I both attended, depending on the department, determined whether their computer labs were Macs or Windows.
Same. Or Linux.
Yes. No, we didn't have any Linux in the public computer rooms for students. But I am familiar with Linux because that's a whole nother story. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I am familiar with Linux as well.
Management software, network software.
Yeah. So I figured I would go from, so again, we're going with this concept of once you have a manuscript, you then jump to the end result of your concept of your book, and you keep walking backwards till you meet the part where you must have a manuscript. You can go no further. So here we are at formatting. We've already got their book cover in whatever form you're actually planning on publishing it in, whether just ebook or a physical or paperback, hardback, whatever, you. And so here we are. You need to have something formatted, and you're not paying for vellum, or you've never heard about being able to make a Hackintosh on a Windows so you can use vellum since it's Mac only because vellum. Anyway, so here we are. So I may be going over some things that for some of y'all are like, duh, Glory, but I'm trying to just under that umbrella catch everybody. So it starts with this. You'd want to do a new document. This is what I have done. During the break, I made a new document. This is very important, is first thing you do, you're going to need to determine page size as well as orientation. So presumably, because you've already worked on your book cover, you know your trim size, you know the page size you want to do. And you're going to know what you want to pick. What we did with this book, so the reason why it's all on one side was specifically because we were still deep in the editing process. And I don't know about now, but back in the 90s, according to all of Mom's research, she literally reached out to publishers. She reached out to the reference librarians at the Smithsonian, and asked people all sorts of things. So what they said was the way you edit manuscripts, this was back in the day, was you only you have it like half page size so that there's plenty of room for editing notes and all that. So that's why this looks like this now, but also because this is what it will look like. So you're sort of half formatting already, and then the other half of the page is for editing. Just so you're aware of why. The other reason why, I figured I'd mention this, there's so much print considering it's a cookbook. Where's the recipes, Glory? Is because in America, I don't know about elsewhere, but in America, you cannot copyright an actual recipe. You can only copyright other things. So this recipe here is not copyrightable. Anybody can copy it. So if it was a cookbook that was only recipes and nothing else, they could literally just take the whole contents of your cookbook that are only recipes and no other print, put a new cover on it, put their own name on it. Legally, you have no ground to stand on.
Because a process is something you have to patent. It is still not actually copyrightable. So, and very rarely are patents even given for patterns, like clothing patterns, which is another thing that cannot be copyrighted in America, or at least technically it can, but it's very rare for it to be in any way patentable. Because it has to be novel. So what Mom was advised by the Smithsonian librarians, so nice, is, however, because criminals are lazy, they don't like to remove all the pages with the copyrighted material. For instance, like all this print, where like Mom had written a column. This one's called Drinking a Glass of Water Isn't All That Easy. So she interspersed her writings that I had edited for her. She interspersed her writings in between the recipes so that it's harder for someone to just lift our book, slap on a new cover, and call it theirs. Lucy Spence says, however, any copyright catcher will 100% catch every stupid little nuance in a recipe and tick off a ghostwriter for literally 10 straight hours.
So
that's why all those blogs have all those annoying stories.
Yes, that's actually why they have it.
I mean, they've now reached levels where you can't even find the recipe and everyone's aggravated.
Yep.
But that's what it started for. That was the original reason why they did it that way.
So I just wanted to mention that because it seemed kind of important that I bring it up and that it informed what we did. So here we are. All right. We want landscape instead of portrait. And we want a full page size. But we also want a column. You want all of that plus, how do I say, if I may be so bold, I like to see the ruler. So under view, because recently, and I say recently, and it's like the late 2000s, Word moved where everything is. So, I mean, to the young folks who may be watching, that's not a thing. But to me, it's new. I like to see the ruler. And when I'm working in text boxes, which is what I'm going to be doing today, I like to see the grid lines. There is another thing I need y'all to see. Can you see the info page? Yes. Okay. I just want to make sure you can see what I'm seeing. Okay. Under options, does it show this pop up now? Yes. Okay, good. All right. Let me find it. Here we go. Under display, Word options, display. I don't recommend show all formatting marks because the space ones are super annoying. But you want to see the tab characters, this little symbol right here. You want to see the paragraph marks, hidden text, optional hyphens, and object anchor. You especially want to see the object anchors, y'all, for what we are doing here where we're formatting. Okay. This is important. Can you see it now? Do you see this little guy here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Super important because you need to see these, because when people complain about how Word is a mystery and a devil and out to destroy everything you do, often it has to do with because Word is obeying hidden formatting marks that you can't see. And that's where the trouble starts. So I just want to make it clear that essentially you have your settings in a way that you're going to get your best results. This is so important. As I said, this, don't you see how this is like the opposite of sort of the approach to writing where you're like, let's just start with a character or a location and we'll just kind of intuitively figure ourselves out, right? This is like literally opposite. You already need to know what you're doing before you start. And it's like, that's a bummer. But that's Word. And I gotta be honest, Vellum's not that much better at all. So, yeah. Okay.
Insert.
What I want you to see, I'm going to stop sharing this one. I want you to see a different Word document I have prepared. There we go. Okay. So this is one of Mom's recipes. This was a hotly debated recipe, y'all. So that's why I kind of sigh. We, as children, did not want her to include this recipe, but she insisted. And I have to be honest, going by the feedback of the 500 copies we sold, overall, people very much liked this recipe. So I feel like she definitely was correct. And it was the right recipe for the kind of readers she was marketing to, which were people similar to her, people who were not very good cooks and who were on tight budgets and limited time. And they just needed food children would not refuse to eat. So behold, hot dog goulash. If you love it, great. If you don't hate me. Okay, here. But Tom and I can attest, we literally ate this so many times. So here it is. I have already made it as text boxes. And that was how we made it at the time. So if you look now, when the final printing, do you see these hidden formatting marks? They will not be visible. That is why they're hidden. I have changed my cursor from so that it would be more visible. Like you see the cursor with these little colors, just so that y'all could hopefully see it a little bit easier. That's all. So here's the basic recipe. Hot dog goulash serves 4 to 5. And again, partly because in a cookbook, you definitely want to put as much of your own copyrightable print as possible into it. So, quote, your kids are going to love this, and so are you, because it's so easy to make. That is copyrightable. This part here is not. So that's why, like every recipe, in the middle of the recipe, you need to have copyrightable material. So
now, Glory has still not mentioned one of the big secrets to if you're going to format your own book and you do not want to deal with the infamous, I hit the space bar and everything rearranged. These are all in text boxes.
Yeah, I just had said this is a text box, and I moved it.
Did you say how to? Oh, I must have just blanked out there for a minute. Sorry, guys.
See, it's a text box. I can move it upside down.
Look at your magic powers, Glory. It's now spinning.
I have magic.
And it'll just stay inside that text box. It will not go to another page.
Yeah. And I made the text box large enough to meet but not exceed the margins. So what we did originally was we just had full page. Later, we would then make it small this way. So then there is the ingredients. 1 to 2 packages of hot dogs cut into 1/2-inch rounds. 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of paprika. Look, there's a fancy version, and Tom and I are going to actually talk about it. 4 to 6 medium potatoes cubed into 1-inch squares. Number of potatoes depends on number of people eating. 1 small onion, diced very small, optional. Children don't like onions sometimes. 2 tablespoons of, that's misspelled. It's supposed to be cooking oil, not cooling oil.
Very different butter. Product.
It's a very different product. And 2 cups of water. And that's its own text box separate from the directions, which I have then also emboldened so that it would pop. 1, saute the onion until translucent. 2, add potatoes to translucent onion and barely cover with water. 3, cover with lid and cook until potatoes are soft. 4, sprinkle paprika in for color. Otherwise, the water looks a bit murky. 5, add hot dog rounds and stir. 6, cook 3 to 5 minutes until the hot dogs are hot and plumped up a little bit. Serve and enjoy. This is not the picture. I just needed a picture. Back then, we did not have pictures in this because, again, of the cost of printing. But since it's now the 21st century, I felt like I needed to include a picture since the printing costs are not the same like it used to be. So this was very sad whoppers. Okay.
My groceries are put away. Yay!
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. And again, the image is separate from the text. You can move the image independently and it will not change the text because they are separate from those boxes. Like with using text boxes creates a collage instead of a scroll.
So I want to show that this image, okay, let me do it again. Normally you don't see it, but if I click on the image, it has this little layout options. You can see more. And whatever is in brighter, bold colors, you have black, is what you can adjust. So we could make it tight, could make it top and bottom, behind text, and so on, in line with text. We can also adjust the size from here. as well as locking aspect ratio or unlocking it. If I unlock the aspect ratio, notice I can do this now.
How many times have you seen this in actual printed professional books?
So let me go back. I want to show you again. Under size, I'm going to lock aspect ratio and click OK. And now watch. If I, like, that is not what I wanted. Okay, hold up. Okay. Come on, baby. All right. So this is the height is 22% and the width is 22% of the image's ability. You know, like how big it could be. The original height, as it shows you, is 13.34 inches, and the width is 17.78 inches. The absolute height and width is this. I can change this, though. Did you notice? Let me show you again. Do you notice I changed it from like 2.97 to 2? And look, the width automatically adjusted. It did the math for you. And now the scale is at 15%.
Yes, always use boxes. It makes everything easier.
Also, I just want to point out, if you're going to work in Word, there are certain hotkeys that you will appreciate. You will just use constantly. It's how it trained me. So, Control-C for copy, Control-V for paste. I think it might be the Apple sign if you're actually in a Mac product and using Word. But I just want you to be aware of this. Also, Control-Z is undo.
You will use this a lot.
So let's go back to the other one. Hold on, let me stop screen.
But again, like you've heard people talk about when they are sending their book to KDP for print and things get shifted around. Well, if you put each page as its own text box, it will not reflow to another page. So we'll have to figure out how to fit that text box on that page. And it's one way to just have a little bit more quality control. Because Amazon will let you import Word documents.
So to get started, we need a text box. Personally, I like the simple one. It is labeled Simple Text Box. Do you have to use this? No. Do I care? Will I show up in your house as a witch here to like call on you? No, I don't care. You do you. I want you to pay attention. Do you see this? This little object anchor? This is sometimes another one where people complain. Are like, oh, Word won't do what I want. And it may be because the object anchor is preventing it. So that's why I say have it show you all its hidden text. So this is why I like the grid lines. So I can actually see where the margins line up. And then I can bring it out and check how it lines up. I still prefer to be slightly within the margin. Remember, because we made 2 columns. But nevertheless, I just want you to see that. Let's see. Where is that? It's not what I'm looking for. Always trying to remember where they put everything.
What you looking for?
I want to adjust. There we go. The outline. I want no outline. And then what I'm actually going to do, since I've already typed up the hot dog goulash bit, I'm literally going to Control-C and Control-V. And it's very obvious from the start I need to adjust. Now that I'm in a smaller format, I need to adjust my font size.
You can also use that right beside text size is to make it just bigger and smaller.
And could you insert? You can do so many of these. So what I'd actually recommend for non-cookbook writers is you may want to just do a text box per scene or a text box per chapter. And when it comes to that, I'd honestly recommend that you just sort of feel your way of what works for you, because I don't know what works for you. So here is, again, that layout option for this text box. I have to, okay, I want to show this again. Okay, I've clicked on the grid line, and then I mouse over the outline, and I get that little, what is it, like a cross? It's a T shape, whatever they call it. I always think of it as sort of a compass thing. But if I click on it once, it makes the layout options pop up. See more. And I get the whole layout pop-up screen. I can lock the anchor. You remember our good friend Anchor here, which I've heard many a person curse its existence because they didn't know it existed. I can lock anchor. I can allow overlap or unclick overlap. No, don't overlap. That will confuse people or it'll look terrible, whatever. Text wrap. I can have tight text wrap behind whatever I want to do. I can change the margins within this text box, because if you notice, there's a bit of a margin right here. I can adjust that.
And you can have it per text box. Again, you don't have to worry about it suddenly affecting text in another chapter. Oh, and since this is a recipe and a cookbook, if you want to go extra fancy, since we have the text all in boxes, we can put an image in the back of the page and it'll just show between the boxes.
Yeah, that's what the little with the print in front of the dog behind text. That's what it's about. So here's the ingredients. So this one we would call fancy hot dog goulash, because I was reminded while reading it about what Tom and I came up with as teenagers as an improvement over it. So let's see. Wasn't it like 2 hot dogs per person?
Yeah.
Right? So we'd want to do 4 to 6 servings. So what would that be? If we were doing, it would be 12 hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And then paprika-wise, I think it was more like 2 tablespoons of paprika, wasn't it?
Yep.
So I'd say 2 to 4 tablespoons. Paprika.
Sweet paprika, well, smoky paprika, I think is actually what I'm using. Do not use spicy unless you really want spicy, because wow.
Ooh, hot paprika is hot. Holy cow. Let's see, what was it? It was more like, it was large potatoes, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 1 large potato per person.
It was 2 mediums was equal to a large.
Yeah.
So we would just double this, 8 to 12 medium potatoes. Let's see. It would be at least 2 medium onions, if I recall. What was it?
I would just say 1 large onion / 1 cup.
Should I just put 1 cup of onion?
Yeah, I guess really 1 cup onion diced.
Let's see. So it would need, I think it would need 4 cups of water. And we definitely need to increase the oil since there's way more potatoes and hot dogs. And then the garlic powder. Oops, wrong one. Oh. Let me make sure. What? This is definitely where we show the formatting issues. I need to lock this anchor. All right, let's try. No. Now, why are you letting me do it down here, not there?
Because you need to extend the text box down. You've run out of space.
Oh, that's what's happening. Is that what's happening? Because last night when I was working on it, it was letting me go beyond. But, you know, this is why they talk about how Word is a pain in the butt. Yep. No, you're right. So, let's remove that. The water up here in the order we added. So.
And yeah, when you're giving people directions, it does usually help to put the ingredients or the resources in the order that they'll be used. You see that little paragraph symbol on the page?
Oh, yes, this one. Is this the... Yep. It is not letting me remove it.
Did you hit the delete button or the backspace?
I've tried both.
All right, this is where also changing the way the text boxes interact comes in handy. Have it disregard the background.
What? This text box?
Have it float on top. No, go back. Go click on the little symbol. That bottom right.
This one?
Yep. Now it'll just float on top of anything.
There we go.
It's now on top of anything in the background as a collage. But also, this is how you can insert symbols, like Laura showed with the those 1-page, 100-word flash fictions, and between the text and the thing about the text about the author, there was a little, symbol. You can put that into a text box and have that just be on top of other things. And you click that little bottom right option, and then you can put that symbol wherever you want, and it won't move around the rest of the text because it acts like a true collage where you're, putting in each section. And now you can remove those the
borders.
The text borders, the text box borders. And no one even knows.
Yeah, just have it in view so you can see what it looks like. I just go back to edit document to see it in the way I was looking at it before. So that is so what we would do after going through the manuscript phase is then we would literally just copy over for each page. Just so you know that's what we were doing. Is there, let's see, what else? I do think it is important to zoom out to see the overall look. There are other sections. Okay, so there is a watermark section. There are also ways to put things in as headers and footers. You may want to put in page numbers there. Although, to be honest, a lot of page numbering is usually put in at the end at the point where you're working with a publisher.
Yeah, you usually want to hold off on page
You'd want to check on that before you add page number. But I absolutely understand people's desire to have it. But I believe both KDP Ingram Spark, all of them have an option to add in page number at that point. So you would want to be careful about using page number here. But I just wanted to mention it because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm publishing by just making a PDF, which you can do by making it Word and then having it export to PDF. So there's ways to add pages. You add a blank page. There's there's the footers, the headers, if you want to do page number, if you need to do equations.
And almost all this is also in LibreOffice. Like, I mean, there's the open source ones have almost identical, options. The layout may be slightly different, so you may have to just look it up once.
But it is possible to format an entire book in Word and then export to KDP. I believe, Tom, that's how you did your book on how to make your computer run faster.
Yeah.
It's absolutely doable.
And Word can actually handle a lot of images, unlike Vellum.
Yeah,
Which I think, like, if you use more than, what was it, 20 or 30 images, and it will start crashing or something.
No, you can't do 40. That's what I was like. I know it's not 40. It's less than 40 before Vellum starts bugging. So it's not the very first moment you add, like, say, the 39th or 40th picture. It's more like every time you open it again, the bugs start multiplying. And that's often where I get called in to help somebody with their photography book. And it's like, oh, you're doing in Vellum. That is where it's ill-fated. So, yes, you can insert pictures in Word much easier. And even though, yes, it'll make Word work slower over time, the more high-res pictures you are using. So what I actually recommend is, while you are still very much in the working your manuscript phase, do your manuscript in sections, such as 3 or 4 chapters. And then later you will then combine your entire manuscript into one large document. So that way you don't have to be working with words getting progressively slower the more images you add. If you are like cookbooks are image heavy, photography books are image heavy, and children's picture books are also very image heavy. So as to avoid the time that you curse Word, to instead do your manuscript in chunks before you then combine the manuscript into one document to then upload to KDP. Although someone once told me that you can actually upload multiple manuscripts to KDP and it'll combine. I don't know about that, so I don't want to promise you can do it. And it was a version of KDP 1 or 2 versions ago, so I don't know if it's still that way either, that you can do that.
You can also format your book in InDesign if you want to deal with that difficult thing.
That's a different kind of cursing, but it is another kind of cursing. Although, is there a free version of InDesign? Okay, that's what I was saying, because I was just like, I'm just trying to give somebody something where they could like make something and then upload it for free. So, one day that you can buy the software that you want to.
So if you are a college student, a lot of colleges, at least one of their labs, will have access to Adobe Suite.
In my university, that you practically needed a reference from a dean of a department to get into those labs. They were total jerks. Which is how I ended up just like, Tom, get me Adobe the entire suite at home. I don't want to deal with these people.
My school has, there are some classrooms at those doors, as long as there is not a class in them. So what's really cool about my university is they actually post the class schedules for specific classroom labs on the door, so you know the hours that you are able to be in that lab.
Nice.
To use any program they have in that lab. So, and my school had the entire Adobe Suite. In a Mac lab and in a window. They had both of them, which was really nice because some students aren't comfortable using Mac.
Mm-hmm.
I am not comfortable with Mac. I have tried to use Macs a couple of times. It does not end well for either me or the computer.
I've ended up having to use both Macs and Windows and also Linux sometimes for a variety of different departments. It
is they each have their own concept of user interface and how it works. And the problem is getting someone to show you how they have designed that interface. It doesn't matter how much they say, oh, it's obvious. It was obvious for someone of a certain frame of mind. It does not mean that's your frame of mind.
Yeah. But yeah, like the last time I was at university, which was the late 2000s, early 2010s, our university only had the full Adobe suite on the Mac computers, and like only the art department and the journalism department. Were there any other departments that had Macs? I think that was it.
That
maybe the music department.
Well, for Photoshop, the ones that had Adobe was art and photojournalism.
And the music department.
The math department had Macs as well, because some math software is Unix based, and Mac it's really easy to translate, and it's still more user friendly than a lot of Linux. So that's why they'll have it, but they wouldn't have Adobe. And the music department, because some of the music notation software is also still only Mac.
Also, Audacity, at the time at least, Audacity on Mac was like, there was no comparison. And so, but like all the other departments, Polymer Science, staunchly refused to go Mac. The education department was entirely Windows based, which made it awkward for trying to use some softwares, and so on. Yeah.
Which I enjoy. Spence's, really prefers Macs for most things. I said very, very, very excited to get Mr. Spence's tower for myself as well.
Yes.
The gaming will be unleashed.
Yes.
Yeah, there is something to be said about gaming for Windows. A lot of gaming is on Windows primarily.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to mention was, so there is one downside in software on Macs that most people don't even know, which is using Excel. And we'll bring that up when we go over how to do spreadsheets. And that is because Macs, Apple restricts what kind of programming can run within a software program on Apple computers. So there's a lot of advanced functions in Excel that are only available in Windows. They cannot be done in a Mac version of Excel. And so when people talk about Excel not working on their computer the way they've been told it should, often it's because they're using a Mac, and Apple does not allow that functionality, does not allow that type of programming, period. So yeah, it is better to use Windows for certain software like Excel. And also bring up my favorite addition onto Excel that makes it even easier. A little free utility.
By the way, in Word, it is possible to insert the little clip art to make those little like curly cues and things you can do in Vellum. They're free. And in fact, up until recently, I know for a fact Word had them available as free clip art. It's part of Word.
I think they still are.
Yeah, I think I haven't checked lately, but I want to say it's still sourceable. How about that? These little curly cues and all the little things. It's because I've heard several people tell me, oh, well, I use Vellum because I like those little dividers. And I'm like, do you know that clip art's like from the 1800s? It's not copyrighted or anymore. It's you can use it in other software, but I think they're like, I just interpret it as they're really expressing that they're not familiar with the capability of other formatting software such as Microsoft Word. And And so since they're ignorant, they assume their software is the only one that can do it, because why would you talk about it? Like, it's because in Word, it's like, duh, it's available. So nobody talks about it. But in Vellum, they always use this as a selling point. And I'm like, how is this a selling point? It's little curly cues you can draw yourself. But anyway, so I just wanted to mention that there are plenty of these old style Art Deco and what is it? Art Nouveau. Of these little designs to, if you wish to have page breaks or chapter breaks, or you don't want to use an ellipse in between your paragraphs to imply happy fun time. That's what Pierce Anthony used to do in the Xanth novels, is anytime two characters were about to play whoopee, instead it would just, he'd make a sentence about, and then the ellipses flew over. Literally, the 3 dots and ellipse. And I just thought that was always so cute. But yeah, that it is, if maybe you don't want to use ellipses because you're not trying to imply the characters are having happy fun time. You just want to like go to the next scene without a transition. You can just insert those in Word. They're free. They're part of Word offers them, or there's Word will take you to the place where you download them for free to put into your copy of Word. So I just wanted to make that clear, since I didn't think to mention it, because maybe it is a shortcoming of mine that I'm not impressed with these little clip arty things. But people who really are impressed with them keep mentioning them. So I figured I should mention it upon retrospect. So, and I mean, it's okay to be really impressed with these cute little clip arty things. It's okay. I'm not trying to like look down on that. It's just more like, hey, it's also there. I didn't go over it, but it's totally there. And if anybody does want me to go over it another time, let me know. I will happily show you the clip art side of Word. And then I will show you my personal collection on my laptop that I have hoarded of clip art through the decades. Through all these hard drives that I have then copied over, and now I have this like monster hard drive of all my files, but also an obscene amount of low-level, almost 8-bit clip art that I'm like, I should get rid of it, but it's so cute. I don't want to. Also, I worked hard to amass all this. So anyhow, it is what it is. So anyhow, did anybody have any questions or other comments? Hope I haven't killed anybody's interest in Word.
I mean, Eva still loves Word.
Oh, good. Because it's like, oh dear, hope I haven't talked anybody out of it.
I mean, but it is like a lot of software that has been around for a while. It's got a lot more functionalities than most people know or have heard about, because people only discuss what they're currently working on. I mean, the same goes for Photoshop, InDesign, whatever. There's so many different ways to use the same software. It depends on the effect you're going for.
Like, let's say you're me and you hate it that you keep having to literally put job applications, PDFs that you're supposed to be editing and sending back, job applications, and they're not entirely, I can't write in them, so I have to then go load it into InDesign, fix their buggy PDF, then fill it in the way they say they want, but they did not make that available that you could fill it in that way, and then send it back to them. So perhaps I put hidden little unicorn clip art in there so that only show up when you print it, but you can't see it if you are looking at the PDF on the computer. So people know I've been there and I fixed their glitchy software. You can do that in InDesign.
Hey, Maggie. But yeah, Word actually has minor photo editing abilities as well.
That is true.
But if you're not working on a photo book or something with a lot of photos, most people would not even realize, oh no, you can import the photos and do some basic editing on them just within Word. You don't have to bring in already finished photos.
Right. I
Or
believe
images.
Word even has, or at least it used to have an option. The last time I was working on someone's photo book in Word, had an option to show you what it'll look like in CMYK
Yeah.
printing. So it'll show you what this image will look like in at the printing press. And then I like to look at the horror on photographers' faces, because they did not edit their photo for print. InDesign can be scary, but InDesign does not have to be scary. As somebody who likes to do evil in InDesign, chaotic.
Again, it's that you need to learn how it works for what you want to use it for. Because it's for so many different possibilities. Just like Excel spreadsheets are for a lot of different. You could be doing your budget, or you could be doing your plot outline for your book.
You can do timelines in Excel. You can make all sorts of strange things in Excel, like a pie chart of just how many times you use a certain word percentage-wise compared to all the words you use. Like, how many times do I use "the"? How many times do I use the word "said" compared to my total word count? You can make pie charts and graphs of this. You can make whatever. Excel is not inherently evil on its own, just in how it is manipulated and used. That is actually the reason when economists say, oh, what we need to do is go to an austerity economy system. And then other economists are like, please send us your actual work so we can see, so that they can see how Excel has been manipulated. And catch that people don't realize that, oh, wait, you mean when I send you the Excel spreadsheet, you can unhide all the columns I tried to hide to manipulate the statistics to show my point of view? Excel's great for forensics.
I did find, by the way, that other program that I talked about earlier when you talked about yWriter. If you were interested in it at all.
Sure. But it says, Canva's too much for me sometimes. I'm 10 times more likely to do it the longest way possible because I'm already a curmudgeonly grandma set in her ways. I get that vibe from you. Yes.
But at a certain point, is it the way that's repeatable every single time you do it? Then, okay.
That's really what matters. Is like the consistent redundancy.
Because, look, everyone talks lovingly about art, but craft is what pays the bills.
Amen.
What you can repeat every day is what people are really interested in, not the amazing glitch that happened once and you can't repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Like a true grandma. With very bizarre standards I only really hold myself to.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the name of the software?
It's yWriter. It's QUOLL writer. I can share my screen.
Cool. Because I thought you were going there. I wasn't sure what was happening.
Sorry. But I actually found this forever ago before I had Scrivener. So a couple of years ago. I had tried yWriter before, but I was like, this is just too much. Like the boxes and the things it's just too much for my brain. And it's free. You don't have to pay for it. You can donate money, or you can just get it for free.
Cool. Maggie just got 2 new baby goats.
Aww.
So I'm actually in the options section right now, but you open a page. Oh, you can't see it here. Let me. So if you open a page, it actually opens up down at the bottom a new tab. So you can open and close, like you can go bounce between stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You can close those out. You can have as many of those pages open as you want, or close as many as you want. And it's really simple.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It is a bit more of a simplified interface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
For
it's
those
a
who
way
get visually
simpler
overwhelmed.
interface, and it has achievements.
Nice. Everybody loves a badge.
Built-in
right?
motivators.
Yep.
Yeah, you can actually just click the list. There are 56 general achievements
Nice.
that you can do. Which I like things with achievements. Like, they're just like, yes, I did a thing. And then you can actually, in options, your assets, you can add, like, so it already has characters, locations, and items already, like, over here, that you can just add those. You can also add new assets. And you can, like, add custom symbols. Or, whatever you want to it, so that you can be like, these are my characters. Locations, items, spells, whatever, and just keep adding as many of those as you want. So it's very comparable to Scrivener and yWriter, but like it seems more customizable in that sense. And like for Virgo, that's what drew me to it. Was one, it is a very simple system. Two, I also was able to have typewriter keyboard sounds. There's a button for that. That if you don't have a clacky keyboard, you can make it typewriter. Come on, who doesn't want a typewriter sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, fair. That's fair.
I mean, also just, it really does remind me of, sometimes it's not that a lot of people like, tell themselves, oh, well, I'm obviously just bad at something, versus sometimes it's the tools. Finding the tool that works for your mind of, Word works for some people, WordPad works for others, yWriter works for different people with a different, mindset and visual way of looking at it. Quell, again, has a different look. It's still going to give you the same basic functionalities, but what is it that appeals to you and also does not distract? Because, I can see where for some people those different boxes being open at the same time and text, and there being multiple areas of text, if you're a certain mind type, it's too many distractions.
This also does have, you can set it to do warm-ups.
Nice.
Which is really nice.
That's it. Don't use the wrong sized hammer.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think for many people, particularly initially starting writing, Quell, I could see that being less intimidating. And very much having this low, gateway to entry to just jump in and start writing. Yeah,
and it has, if I can find where it is, you can go into a different view where it fills your screen. I can remember how to do it. This one. And you, it removes distractions. So all you see is the text editor. Similar to how I think Scrivener can do that too. And you can change, the background of it, and you can theme it if you want.
Very cool.
You can distraction-free mode. Yeah, I don't feel like it. Thanks.
Although I do like that it still puts a little bar up top. Because I've known plenty where it's like, what button did I push? I'm now stuck
here. How do I undo this? How do I escape this hell?
And you can, I do also like that it does have text properties still and stuff that you can change. And I kind of might even like it more than Scrivener.
I can see that, yeah.
Just because it's something about Scrivener is very intimidating.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way as Adobe software. Of a lot of their software at this point has been around for decades and has so many options in there that, while for advanced users, yes, very useful. for beginners, it's easily overwhelming. It's easy to get lost. There's just too much stuff that they don't use normally, and there's not a way to hide that stuff in the meantime of, I just want the basic interface.
Right? I mean, like, I didn't initially... Tom introduced me to yWriter, like, forever ago. I did not initially use yWriter. It wasn't until stories were getting so complicated in my head that I was having difficulty keeping track of what was going on, that I was like, I need some way to organize this, and I can't take over a whole room to do, all the Post-it notes that this will surely involve. And Tom was like, have you met yWriter? That thing I introduced you to ages ago? And so that is where yWriter came in for me.
It also has, like, the statistics tracking and stuff as well. So, like, it has all of those other functions, but it's...
But again, it doesn't put them out there immediately, so you don't get lost in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're literally... You can't see it because we're blocking it. Of course it did it when I tried to move the screen over. Make it small and go over here.
Yeah, there we go.
Down here is literally where all those things are.
Mm-hmm.
And the icons actually, like, they match what they do. Oh, thank you. Because, like, sometimes icons are like, excuse you? What do you...
I hate it when they don't have it so that if you hover over an icon, it will give you a text box of what it's called and function does.
Oh, yeah, that definitely gets on my nerves when it won't tell me what it is. It's like, I don't want to click on it to find out. Just let me hover.
This one is click to save chapter text, click to add a new plot, outline, item, asset, note, etc. So you can click it and it'll list all of it. So why is it... Okay, it does pop up over everything. But... Making all these achievements by clicking random buttons. But yeah, there's just another free option if yWriter is too...
As I said, like, it didn't apply to me early on. It wasn't until it's like, these stories, how do I organize, Tom, is the death. And Tom's like, yWriter?
Oh, yeah, it is truly, like, but for writing, it does depend on what you need it for.
Yeah, what you're trying to do, how you need it to help you organize.
I do like Spence's. I like using hammers for that because there's two different hammers in this house, one for Noah and one for me, and we cannot use each other's hammer without much regret, and you wouldn't think so at first, but yeah, like different hand sizes hold hammers different ways, and if that handle doesn't line up correctly with all the little bumps inside your hand, your hand will tire out real quick using the wrong hammer. Also, yeah, I miss when it was much simpler to animate in Photoshop GIFs.
Yes.
I will keep saying it that way. I don't care.
It's like for buttons, guys.
CS3. I miss her.
I learned Photoshop, I think, on CS6.
I'm so old.
Because that's what my school had.
There hasn't been that much change between
my
6
heart, it
and
hurt.
8. They've just added a few AI functionalities, really, have been the last couple updates. But, I mean, 3 still works perfectly functional. There was a few additions that 6, once you find them out, are nice. But the rest have been AI. To me, the part actually I was surprised I like most is using Lightroom as a workflow to then send things into Photoshop for use. Because
that was a game changer for me.
Lightroom lets you look at a whole lot of images at once and sort of organize and do basic effects to them. And then it'll even let you do automated processes inside Photoshop so that, you know, instead of having to open up each image one at a time to do this one thing. But again, how do you need to use this software in finding the people who use it similarly to kind of help you learn that part of, like, yeah, believe me, Kat, I really get the part of I need few distractions when I'm writing, especially too many colors for me, and I will lose track, just color variety. But also sometimes, yeah, you kind of want that, I don't know what you call it, but printed background paper, is sometimes fun just to type on and write on. It's just kind of also helps you keep a mood for text that you're typing, is if you always got that visual reminder as well. So it's just what is it that works for your style of the time versus once Glory started writing where she had 3 to 4 different plots running in one story, it got complicated real quick, just scene to scene, who was available in which scenes at that time and in that location.
That's when you need murder board. Zorn?
Oh yeah. I mean, you and Faulkner. Just gonna write, all the walls are whitewashed because that's what I'm gonna write on.
Yep. But yeah, I think it's actually what we figured out in the Gray and Universe 2.0. There's more than 8 different storylines happening at once. And they keep crossing paths. So they essentially keep making little cameos in each other's stories. And then they move on. And they're not meaning to. They just happen to all be, not all, but some of them keep crossing paths. And it was like, I can't. My brain will explode. This is it. This is how my brain dies. And Tom's like, let's help you live.
Hey, Glory, how do you start a writer war?
GIF/GIF. Which
GIF.
Technically it's a G for graphic.
The guy who coined it called
I don't give a
it
fuck.
GIF, as in a gift, even though it's graphic, as in. Yeah, that guy.
But Griff would have been a little too on point and confusing.
It is the grift. Yes.
I mean, look, I am sassy and a little chaotic. That's why I'd like to start that whole, it's the dumbest argument.
I'm not going to have an argument. Now the man's dead, thank goodness. So we don't have to even have an argument. You can just say how you want now. I don't care. Because he's not going to, he would literally show up in people's bulletin boards and people's conversations, their blogs, to correct them for reals. Oh yeah, he was a Karen. Yeah, no, I'm not exaggerating. He really would.
We all just call it a graphic image file.
Okay, so next week we're going to talk about keyword optimization and SEO. It's a thing.
It's a thing we've been doing for decades.
It definitely helped us get monetized on YouTube. Despite so many people trying to say, oh, keywords and tags don't matter on YouTube. So even people who have been monetized, I've found saying it, and I found it very confusing. Yeah, it is the hill he died on, y'all.
It's the figurative hill he truly died on.
Did he have a stroke? It might actually have been the hill he died on.
It's the figurative hill he literally died on.
He literally I think he had a blood pressure issue because it upset him that so much of the world kept mispronouncing it. And this was according to him out of his own words. I'm for reals. So anyway. So again, this was a request episode of some of the author tubers asked for to share keyword optimization and SEO, and maybe Charlie and maybe Megan will help us with this, and maybe others who have opinions or experience, because I only have so much experience. Y'all might not believe it, but I'm still only living the one life. I have heard that some of y'all have legends about me, but the bottom line is I'm still only getting this one life.
But yes, we'll go over all the different ways to figure out your SEO, your tags,
metadata.
How do you get how do you work with search engines? How do you get your stuff to show up? There are tips and tricks,
resources
that still work, and others that have been disabled because, they are heavily abused. But you know, like everything, you have to understand what the idea for the people who came up with the algorithms are thinking.
How about, why, yes, there are lists of words that hashtags Instagram is shadow banned. And they are not just the words you think of, like naughty words. There's some words that's like, wait, I use those words. If I use this as a hashtag, Instagram will not show my post to anyone. This explains a couple of posts I've made in the past, actually, where I'm like, even Tom didn't see it. Spence has an experience and instinct, but very little technical knowledge, apparently. Me to every client ever. How did I do with the SEO? Any comments or notes? Every client ever. Dude, you rank so high at Retreat. To me, nuts. That's not helpful. Like, yeah, like Tom's talked about, that I have a way with Google. He'll tell me, like, I tried Googling and I didn't find anything. And I'm like, give me 5 seconds. Okay, there it is. And it's partly because I naturally, apparently, think in a very similar way to the way the Google search engine works, which is weighted, prioritized keywords. So we'll go over it. Because if no one's ever taught you, how would you know?
And there's been a lot of stuff that's knowledge, I swear, has been lost in 2 decades.
Yes, I agree.
That no one discusses anymore, but we did discuss in the very early days of the internet, back in the days of Yahoo and Ask Jeeves, before Google.
And Spider.
Spider. And Alta Vista.
Alta Vista.
Of how do you get this to work? And as much as they're like, but that was the old ways. In the old days, all these systems were built on top of these core concepts. So these still actually have an effect. It's just not the latest and greatest. It's the meat and potatoes that, no one thinks about, but are the basis of your meal. So that's what we'll be talking about. Everyone, please come with your questions. Come with scenarios. If you're not sure, like, how would I, get this ranked, or how would I get people to be able to find me in this? What do I, here's what you then need to go for. And there is some questions and answers you have to ask yourself to, set it up correctly.
Also come with your, this is how I did it.
Yeah. I actually, too, I liked Ask Jeeves. I
didn't like Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves' search methods were pretty simple. Since I also understand the way of the search engine work, I helped Q find a fabric online she had been looking for an hour, and I just found it. Because again, it's those, what are the core concepts for even that fabric? What are the major descriptors, not the feelings or the effects? What are the actual repeatable descriptors?
Every time I think about search engines and like keywords, I always think about the thing that I can never remember exactly how to do it, but you can type in the like archiveofourOwn.org, because I always find it because of fan fiction, is like using a fan fiction site, and then there's a symbol, I don't remember what it was, but if you remember a line from it or something that happens in it, you can type that in, and most likely it'll be one of the first ones that pop up in the search engine. And I'll be like, what is this sorcery?
Yeah, a good trick. It used to be you had to do site : archive.org to do it.
That's it.
But now you can just do archive.org space and then in quotation marks your sentence, and it just knows, oh, you want to search that website. Yeah, the old one, you had to know the site colon for website. Not website colon. That's too obvious. Site colon.
Yeah, it's the site colon website name and then da da da. But y'all, there are fanfics that I have found that I was like, I read this, but I really want to reread this because was this really something I read or something I made up?
Did I dream that or did I read it?
I feel that way.
I really feel that about Joanne's. How does Joanne want you to find the expensive version of this product?
You definitely have done a lot of research. So anyway, so that's what we're going to talk about next week on April 11th.
Feel free to even just message us ahead of time as you think of questions, and we'll make a little note to ourselves to make sure to discuss that on next week's show. Also,
there's still the poll.
Oh yes.
8 votes. Favorite way to write your story. 75% said computer keyboard. 0% said phone keyboard. 12% said audio transcription, speak aloud. It's not how you spell speak, but okay. And 12% said handwrite on paper.
I think the word you were looking for was dictation.
Yes. It's okay. We're all just doing our best to survive here. Yeah, I do laptop and pen and paper. And honestly, like the that moment when the idea hits you, I prefer pen and paper for that. Maggie says, Kat, I need you to read Spartan Chimera sometime and let me know how you feel about my portrayal of Medusa. Thumb up. So I think that's about it for us, unless anyone else has any parting remarks or anything. Hope we've helped. It's April and we didn't want to do anything about autism. So we're doing this instead.
But yeah, if you ever need help finding software to do something, message us. There's a lot more we have used over time.
True.
And so if you can tell us what you're looking for, kind of like Kat with Cole, of I need a little bit simpler interface, or I need more option interface, or whatever, let us know and we'll see if we can help find the one that fits your kind of usage.
Oopsies. Well, there's still a couple hours left. Yeah. I as a whole do not choose to talk about autism in April. Because there always seems to be some terrible thing that comes out by the end of the month, and I don't want to. So instead, we're talking about writer tools and resources for the whole month and next month. So yeah, feedback is appreciated. Thank you all so much for coming. And even if you are watching this on the replay and you've made it this far, again, thank you so much. Please be sure to let us know in the comments your thoughts so that, we can put that input in for next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hey.